What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 52 of the Silver and Gold. I'm Josh.
And I'm Mike.
And, let me just put it this way. We've got two very disappointing games to talk about for both fan bases. Both of us, we sit at 1-2 right now. Like, I guess we were both expecting our teams to win this week, and both of them just I mean, which one was more disappointing, Mike, would you say?
The Raiders just got absolutely killed by a team that they shouldn't have got killed by, whereas the Niners kind of Niner fans had to slowly lose their hope, and in the final minute really realize oh, we're losing this game. Whereas Raider fans, it was just like at halftime, it's like, yeah, I don't think we're coming back from this. You know,
Mhm.
just the vibes were immediately low. So I
Yeah.
think I don't know. Like as far as should this have happened for the Raider game, it's worse than the Niners situation. But the way that the games played out, I feel like it was worse for Niner fans.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I had to watch like another 10-point lead fucking get decimated late in a football game for the 49ers. So, I don't know. I never want to see them lead by 10 ever again. They can lead by 11, they can lead by 9, just don't lead by 10.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and jump into that game. Uh Mike and I both had the 49ers beating the Rams in this game because the Rams are absolutely decimated right now. Their offensive line is you know, it's pretty banged up. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua, their top two passing threats, are also banged up. I don't think Cooper Kupp is on IR because I don't think the Rams have enough IR spots left. But I think Cooper Kupp should, if there was the space on IR, I think he would be. Puka Nakua is on IR. And, the 49ers essentially had a game plan, or at least they had the blueprint, right? All right, all the passing options are gone. You have one job. There's this guy named Kyren Williams. You can't let him get going. And you know what the 49ers did? They let Kyren Williams get going. I don't know, man. 3 touchdowns for Kyren Williams behind a banged up offensive line. And a lot of those touchdowns, you know, it looked easy. It looked easy. I guess I was gonna I didn't know where to start when talking about the game, but I guess I'll start with the defense. And I guess it's perfect because I have Nick Sorensen on the thumbnail of the stream.
Mm.
I think it's week 3, and I can already feel a huge downgrade at defensive coordinator. From the, I guess, two-headed monster of Nick Sorensen and Brandon Staley from Steve Wilkes. And then obviously nothing was as good as the years with Robert Saleh and the years with D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. Is Sorensen going to be the long-term guy? Not if he's going to be calling games like this. Like we saw last week against the Vikings, there was that big play. It's just a head scratching play. Like, why is George Odom one-on-one with Justin Jefferson? And Nick Sorensen was asked, and that's like what the plan was for that play. And I'm just, he's the professional and I'm not, but clearly it didn't work out for you, Nick. And I don't know, man. This is 2 weeks in a row that the 49ers have also been outcoached. Oh, man, I just can't fathom that they have all this talent. And Mike, it's not just me, right? It's not just me being a homer. The 49ers are the more talented team between them and the Rams currently right now with all the injuries. Even though the 49ers were missing Christian McCaffrey, even though they were missing Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, the Niners still have more talent on their roster, right?
I believe they do.
Mm-hmm. They I mean, we saw good games out of players like Brock Purdy. Juwan Jennings had a hell of a game.
Juwan Jennings made some money today. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, he just signed a contract with the team, maybe like a 2-year deal. So
Yeah, it was a 2-year deal, but still, like, I think if you can have a performance like that when your number's called, like he's like dating back to the Super Bowl and even before the Super Bowl, like when his number's called, he does what's needed, you know?
he's clutch.
That
He's clutch.
yeah,
He's
he's
not the
clutch.
best athlete. He blocks his ass off. He always instigates fights with the other teams where they'll punch him, and then the Niners will get a 15-yard, unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, getting them 15 more yards down the field on offense. Jennings always on third down, he's always the guy that they target.
Yeah.
And today it was just every single play. It was Juwan Jennings, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Brandon Ayuk was a guy who didn't. He did not appear today. But I mean, am I shocked? No. Like everybody was talking about how this is going to be Brandon Ayuk's game, like and that he's in better shape. Like, yeah, he's in better shape, but he missed all of training camp. You have to build the timing. You have to get your body ready for football. Like, I get it. There's other receivers who are better than Brandon Ayuk who did hold out for contract, who like CeeDee Lamb, I think, is playing at a higher level right now than Brandon Ayuk is, for sure. But Jamar Chase is another guy who held out and has not been having a great year so far. But the Bengals always start slow. The Niners, before this past season, have been a team that kind of starts slow. Yeah. But Brandon Ayuk always brings it in camp. And so there was none of that. There was none of that this offseason. And what? Do you think that he's really going to be going his hardest when he's training by himself, when he's about to sign, a massive contract that's going to, change his life? The reason why he wouldn't is because if he gets hurt, he's fucked. He's not going to get that contract. Like, why would he push it to the limit when, his play over the past couple seasons was why he got paid? Like, I saw countless times throughout the game today where, this was on like Twitter and social media and everything, where people were saying Brandon Ayuk, needs to give Juwan Jennings the money. And yeah, I mean, Juwan Jennings played his ass off, but like, I think the expectations in week 3 are just a little unrealistic from a guy who did not participate in training camp and like literally just got here like 2 weeks ago. I'm not excusing Brandon Ayuk for the rest of the season. No, he definitely has to play better. In fact, he's got to play better next week. Brandon Ayuk dropped a bunch of balls that were right, hit him right in the hands. Brandon Ayuk wasn't the only one, though. I don't get it, man. Juwan Jennings was playing well, and with the game on the line, they chose to dial up a play for Ronnie Bell. And Ronnie Bell had a couple of drops today, and literally Purdy threw a dime. It hits Ronnie Bell right in the hands, and he just drops it. Yeah, I don't know. I saw this thing also where people are talking about like the curse of the number 10. Kyle Williams, Jimmy Garoppolo, and then Ronnie Bell today. I don't know. Ronnie Bell, I think, it was tough to see, and I just don't understand why Jacob Cowing isn't out there.
That's what I was gonna go towards right now. I didn't get to watch the game fully, but from what I heard from some Niner fans that I know, there were a few players, and also through Twitter, that I have seen a few players that have been sticking out as far as not playing very well, if not just in my friend's eyes. So Ronnie Bell was like, why is this dude on the field? This dude can't catch. Get him out of here. Like, we'd rather see Jacob Cowing. I was hearing complaints, maybe more in an optimistic sense of like Deommodore Lenoir maybe is playing good, but in the negative aspect, their opinion was maybe Diamador Lenore is cornerback 1 because Charvarius Ward. How have you felt about him this year? Has he been kind of not playing up to par?
Well, I know last week the big thing was, why is he not lined up on Justin Jefferson on every route? Like, why is Nick Sorensen not putting his players in the best possible case for them? I think Charvarius Ward today, I know this week he was on the injury report. That could have had something to do with it. I think he had some like hamstring tightness, but like, I think that in general, the secondary got killed by a couple penalties. There was one that was not even by a corner. There was one late in the game that was Devondre Campbell. I don't know why he is going out deep for routes.
Yeah, that was at the end of the game, right?
That's just a matchup issue, And then he's not fast to begin with, and so he's got to go full sprint the opposite way. He's not going to get his head turned around.
Yeah,
that's just like that to me wasn't smart. Nick Sorensen got out coached, and I think that's kind of a Brandon Staley thing too.
Mm-hmm. The last player I was going to bring up was Malik Collins. I've seen a lot of plays the past 2 weeks on Twitter of him just like crunch time, game is on the line, and he's getting, 2 guys blocking him or whatever it is, and
that's not him.
Oh, who did I say? Sorry, Javon Hargrave.
Javon Hargrave. No, Javon dude, Hargrave, I have a serious issue with that. Yeah. Because there's one thing on the football field that should not be optional, and that's effort.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
And he's getting paid a lot of money to do it. And I think maybe that's the thing. Maybe there's no incentive. He's already got his big contract.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have seen, and I've sent you a couple plays where, he's just standing straight up and just stopping.
Yeah.
Like I get it that you're gassed, but tell your coach I need to be subbed out.
Yeah. Because Malik Collins, on the other hand, is actually playing pretty good. Like, he's not 100% ultra consistent, but I know he had a sack in this game, and it was really nice. Like, he's getting pressure.
I can almost guarantee that any coach would rather have the backup playing at full 100% effort over Javon Hargrave just standing up and not pursuing like he's just, it's lazy. It's super lazy.
That's gotta be insane to see on film. Like,
and that's a problem
Tuesday.
That's a problem from last year too, because we had players like Chase Young who, were just kind of jogging and not giving their full effort through the play. So I don't know. Are the players bought into this new defensive system? I don't think so. So defense wasn't the only bad thing in this game, though. I think that special teams might have been even worse, actually. There was a fake punt early in the game. The Rams were down by 2 scores. I want to say it was either 14-0 or 14-3, and they, it was like 4th down at, right around midfield, and it's kind of clear, like the Rams, this game can slip away from them very, very quickly. And, they lined up for a fake punt and they got it. And that changed everything, because right after that, they scored their first touchdown with Kyren Williams. And there was another special teams thing that just kind of killed the 49ers later in the game. It was, obviously, the Jake Moody missed field goal was big. And, are we even surprised? This was a problem last season. Honestly, I just think that a lot of mistakes are catching up with the 49ers here and there, and this is one of them. They lost kind of in similar fashion. Last season, like if we're going to compare this game to a game last season, this is the PJ Walker game against the Browns. Like, how did this team lose to that team? Like, Debo didn't play, which might have been one factor of it. The team's kind of banged up, and then Jake Moody misses a key field goal in the game.
Yeah.
But besides that, there was another play late, like very late in the game. It was either a punt or I want to say the Niners punted, or it was a kickoff, and then it set up the Rams at like midfield in order to kick their game-winning field goal. Like they just needed like 1 or 2 first downs to get into field goal range.
It was the punt return, right?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a punt return, and it's the same story with this team. What kills them constantly is their special teams. It killed them in the Super Bowl. A missed PAT, a muffed punt. What are the 49ers going to do to improve their special teams? When they lose, it almost seems to be a big factor every single time that they lose. Because I brought up that Browns game, the missed game-winning field goal. What is the solution here? Because I can bring up the past, but how is it going to get better going forward if no changes are made?
Mm-hmm.
So special teams definitely had a big part in the loss today. But it's just collectively defense and special teams, they get paired together a lot in fantasy football, but those collective pairs today were a nightmare today on the football field. The good, though, I think Brock Purdy, not having the weapons that he had, I thought Brock Purdy played really well in this game. He was getting out of the pocket. He was stepping up into the pocket, evading pressure. He was throwing deep balls to Juwan Jennings. Purdy, I think, played one of his best games in a loss. This is what the offense might look like in a couple years when a couple of the guys retire. Like we talked about, like the sort of new core going forward, where it's like, Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and I feel like I'm missing one. Maybe you can bunch Dominic Pooney in there. But, this team isn't going to remain intact forever. Like we've been talking about it, the Super Bowl window is kind of closing. And maybe that's what we can just chalk it up to. Maybe this win is just sort of the magic pixie dust, the Super Bowl hangover that just kind of looms, the raining clouds that loom over the team that loses the Super Bowl. Because I talked about it like before the season started, where there's going to be games in a Super Bowl hangover where you just can't put your finger quite on why is everything out of rhythm? There's no reason why the 49ers should have lost this game today. And yet they put so many reasons on the field why they did not win this game. Like they put the game in their kicker's hands, and when you put a game in your kicker's hands, sometimes he's just going to miss.
Yeah.
This seems to be a problem with Shanahan late in the game, managing the game, getting creative. Like Sean McVay was creative in this game.
That, I was going to say it earlier. The fake punt that the Rams did, what was that, in the second quarter? Just before halftime. I think it was leading to either their first or possibly their second touchdown in the game. That was huge. That was probably, like, to me, that was probably the difference of the game, at least from the Rams side of like how they won this game. If they had punted instead of going for it and, getting the first down, they don't get that first or second, whichever touchdown. they're not going to win this game. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that was just one of those decisions that paid off for them.
Yeah. What else do I want to say about this game? I thought Jordan Mason, looked pretty good. I wish they would have just committed to him a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, early on in this game, honestly, I mean, hindsight 2020, there could have been other factors or something, but I feel like the Niners could have kind of just, not clocked out the Rams, but just ran all over them, just developed the run. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Will says, I wish we would have just kept running the ball or, kept the run going. Yeah, no, I agree. There's just like literally if you take a look at all of the Niners losses, I know I mentioned that special teams is an issue in a lot of those losses, but one thing I notice is in a good chunk of those losses, they do not commit to the run, or for whatever reason, they at any point in the game, just you kind of like, why are they getting away from the run right now? And like, really, I mean, the Niners put up 24 points. My complaints are less about the offense today, although there was a play later in the game where Brock Purdy had to like run 150 yards scrambling like side to side, which was I mean, it was bad. The Niners just needed to get into field goal range, and obviously, I mean, look, they needed a first down apparently because Jake Moody ended up missing that field goal. Yeah. But the smart thing to do in that situation is you cannot take a sack, and Purdy almost took like 2 sacks in that play, which would have taken them out of field goal range, which hindsight 2020 would have given them probably a better opportunity to win that game if they just punted the ball instead of missing a field goal right there. Yeah. It's always revisionist history, but man, that's the same mistake he made in the fucking Super Bowl in 2016. You just need to run the ball and ice the game. Run the ball and ice the game. And yet you call a pass, and luckily Brock Purdy can move. And he moved a lot in this game. Purdy moved very well in this football game. But he evaded all that pressure and gained 3 yards, 4 maybe 3 yards, 2 yards.
I think it was like 3rd and 8 and he got like 6, something like that.
Yeah, and then
I'm thinking of the right play.
It was the one where I mean,
he went,
I hate to say it, he was all over the field.
Left. Yeah.
All the way right, all the way back left, was looking. I thought at what, at a certain point, oh my God, he is going to take the Niners so far out of field goal range. Like it's not even funny, but he did have like a moment where I'm like, man, he might get the first down right now. And
that might be one to get it.
Yeah. That would have been like one of the craziest plays on his highlight reel.
Oh yeah.
That would literally be like, what was it? NFC Championship game or was it the NFC Championship game? No. It was the game against the Packers where he used his legs and kind of put the team on his back, and then they came back and won.
Yep.
So that would have reminded me of that, So Will also says, I'm not a super Kyle fan, neither a Kyle hater, but it just feels like he gets too cute with the play calling instead of, just lining up and playing ball. Yeah. Like, if you were to tell me which team, I guess, was experiencing more injuries on the offensive line, I would probably say I would think that the 49ers are, because, I mean, the Rams just kept running the ball with an injured, a backup offensive line.
Yeah.
They got 3 rushing touchdowns.
Yes. You're saying from what you saw of this game.
That's from what I saw of this game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you would have told me one of these teams is not playing with their starting offensive line, in the run game. Obviously, yeah. I think Purdy had pretty good protection all game.
It's just the run blocking.
I can't explain why they got away from the run.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
know, I
again,
know
like
on the stat sheet, Jordan Mason got 19 carries,
mm,
but I
he probably
think
should
he
have got
could have
more.
handled more.
Yeah.
He should have gotten more.
Yeah.
The Niners were leading this game for the entirety of the game. It was like 14-0, 14-3 in like the first quarter.
Yeah. No, like you mentioned earlier about just Shanahan with the Super Bowl all over again, in 2016 of just not, or 2019, excuse me, of not running the ball when you just could have kind of clocked out the game. Like
No,
early
I
on the
said
first half.
2016, the one where he was the offensive coordinator on the
Oh,
Falcons,
yes.
and
Falcons.
he
Yes.
tried to do the kill shot when
Yep.
all you had to do was milk the clock. And
Yeah. I mean, that's been his MO. Besides last year's Super Bowl, that's been his MO as far as in the Super Bowl and occasionally in the regular season. It's just weird because usually in the regular season he would actually run the ball and like kill the game. And then yesterday it was just like, no. I don't know. That's weird. And then oh man, I was gonna say one other thing. Oh, the Rams were down like by 14 points most of this game, and yet they were developing the run and they were committing to it, and
Yep.
they just inched their way back into this game. So
Yeah, so I mean, when you let a bad team stay with you in the game, they'll beat you. And then always, I guess I didn't account for this, but like divisional games in general, anything can happen. Like
yeah,
when you play a team in your division, it doesn't matter who's good or who's bad. There's a game like this, just kind of, it happens every single year.
yeah. Unfortunately, for you guys, this was a Rams team who kind of had their backs against the wall because they were 0-2, and although they were extremely unhealthy, they didn't play like a bad team or an unhealthy team. They played like a well-coached team, really. I
Yeah.
think Sean McVay had them ready to go in this one. So,
Yeah, and then all right, so I know there is a lot of, Shanahan criticism of this game. And, I will say my main criticisms of Shanahan are that he didn't have his team ready to finish a football game. This seems to be an issue where these are games that are practically already decided. They're practically already decided and they just lose in the end. And this isn't every game. Obviously, we saw the games last year where, Christian McCaffrey just ran it down their throats the entire season, and teams could not come back. But, in key moments of a game, he wasn't prepared to commit for the run or commit to the run. And yeah, my other biggest criticism is bad play call when you're in field goal range and you're threatening to take that away. A sack right there, you have to punt it to the Rams. And revisionist history, it would have probably given the Niners a better chance to win. But Will, thank you for checking out the channel and sharing your thoughts. I think this is your first time commenting on the channel. We, as you can tell, we take comments live. We also respond to comments on videos that we kind of upload throughout the week. So, feel free to hop in at any point during the season and, we'll get some good football commentary going. But Will says, even Mark Sanchez on the commentary was really questioning Kyle Shanahan's decision to not run the ball. He seemed unimpressed with Kyle's offense today. I think the offense, in my opinion, was the best unit today out of the three units between offense, defense, and special teams. But yeah, I think Mark Sanchez and other people, like, some people just, whenever you question Kyle Shanahan, people get very defensive, right? Let's just take a step back right now. Mike, I have a question to ask you, and I got this idea, from Grant, because I was watching Grant's live stream before we hopped on here. which Shanahan disciple teams would currently trade their current head coach for Kyle Shanahan right now? Would the Rams trade Sean McVay for Kyle Shanahan right now?
No, I don't think the Vikings would. I think Kevin O'Connell is extremely impressive. I think I'm probably forgetting one, but I think the Dolphins would. I think I felt extremely unimpressed with Mike McDaniel so far this season, especially since Tua went out, because I feel like, you lose Tua and you're forced into this backup quarterback situation. It's like, I think most people would say that the Raiders are currently starting a backup quarterback, and yet, I mean, this Panthers game isn't quite there, but in the Ravens game, they were able to get something done. Whereas the Dolphins, you have this offensive genius in Mike McDaniel, and they just can't get anything to work, all because of the quarterback. I don't know. Like, my opinion was I figured they would do a lot of wide receiver screens and pass a lot to the running backs and get creative, but they got shut down by the Seahawks today. So I don't know. I feel like maybe that would be the one team, unless there's any other coach out there that I'm not thinking of.
Okay. What about, would the Packers trade LaFleur for Kyle Shanahan? No. Would the Texans trade DeMeco Ryans for Kyle Shanahan?
Probably not.
Would the Jets? I think the Jets might.
The Jets
might.
Now, granted, I think throwing in the ex-Niners defensive coordinators is kind of a far-fetched because they're defensive-minded coaches and they're not really exactly Shanahan tree guys. They might be more of a defensive tree, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
but
like they stemmed, like they're disciples.
Yeah, they're more of, they just so happen to coach with Shanahan, really.
Yeah.
Like, while those other offensive minds either directly came from Kyle or even Mike McDaniel back with the Redskins back in like the Robert Griffin III days and stuff. But yes, I would say Saleh would be the other guy if you threw him in there for sure.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's like, all right, Kyle Shanahan is called a genius, for his offensive system and the way that he understands the run game and his X's and O's and understands his dad's playbook. But how many other coaches understand it? And how many other coaches are willing to grow in other areas that Kyle Shanahan is not willing to grow? Like, I will say right now, I mean, besides Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan is the most successful out of like that entire coaching tree. And the only reason why I would say Sean McVay is because he's actually won the Super Bowl. But man, like it just drives me crazy as a fan because I feel like Shanahan is like right there. He's among the best coaches in the league. Yeah. He really is. But there are just certain aspects where it's like, I feel like you can do so much better at like, identifying where you lack instead of just being so hard-headed. And for, to be very specific, instead of milking away a game that, you have a lead in and, playing the clock, I think Shanahan doesn't play the clock very well. I think he has a good idea in his mind of like, plays to run, but the situational awareness as it pertains to the clock, I don't think is his strength. And if he could just grow that aspect of, of his coaching, I think he would win a Super Bowl. But I don't know if we will ever see it anytime soon or at all. Because this has been an issue since he was in Atlanta, and that was 8 years ago.
Feels like longer.
If we were going to see it, yeah, it feels like forever ago. But Will says, hell yeah, I saw you guys in my feed and decided to hop in. Yeah, man, we appreciate it. Please consider subscribing. We're going to be here all season, going live weekly. So yeah, man, we'll take your comments. Salvador 148 says, "Why do we choke in the fourth quarter?" Well, I mean, it's exactly what I said. It's the non-situational, approach to play calling pertaining to the clock. It's this is the look that the defense is giving me, so I'm going to call this play, instead of, this is the play that we need to run. We need to run the ball right now. Like, the Niners theoretically would have screwed themselves taking a sack, getting themselves out of field goal range. Obviously, Jake Moody didn't make that kick. I've said it like 5-6 times now. Jake Moody didn't make that kick. And if he makes that kick, the Niners pretty much ice the game and win this football game. Shanahan was threatening to take that away by calling a pass where you might get sacked, which Purdy almost did multiple times that play, but he didn't, and almost turned it into a first down. Like, it was a great play by Purdy, bad play call by Shanahan, I would say, on that particular play.
Yeah, and they could have been running the ball a little bit more to help clock the game and potentially just chunk their way into more first downs and having a shorter field goal attempt and less time for the Rams and ball game. But like we talked about, they went away from the run.
Yeah, Amin says no, they wouldn't. I'm assuming he was talking about the Rams in this particular comment, and he says McVay has won the big game. Kyle hasn't, so they wouldn't. So yeah, I mean, that's reason enough.
Switch coaches. Yeah,
that's reason enough. Will says, I agree. That's why I brought it up. It seems like before, nobody ever questioned Kyle and his genius offense. But it seems like the last 2 years, a lot of ex-pros have been criticizing him. Yeah, I will say there has been more criticism recently in the national media of Kyle Shanahan than there was before, because, like, I don't know, dude, there's the genius phrase, and whenever you question it, it's like, oh, well, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, I don't know if it's just this little Bay Area, bubble that we live in, where it's like, maybe we see a lot of this, or we like to hear a lot of the stuff that we want to hear rather than like the more realistic approach. But in terms of like national media, it's always like, yeah, Shanahan, he's such a genius. He knows, he's a quarterback friendly coach. He's, this, that, and the other. And, oh, the 49ers are the best roster in football. And it's like, well, why can't we put it together? How many great teams, how many superstars do we need to have before we can, win the Super Bowl? And I know the 49ers did not play a Super Bowl today. I'm not trying to say that today's game is a direct result, or, is going to make a direct impact on whether or not they win the Super Bowl in February or not. But it's games like this that have played out in playoff games, like the NFC Championship against the Rams, the team that the organization that they played today. It's games like this against the Chiefs, why they haven't won it already.
Yeah.
And Shanahan just needs to be better in that regard. But Shanahan, yes, his team wasn't prepared to finish a game against an inferior team. And this is 2 weeks in a row now that, they got outcoached. Mm-hmm. I think Nick Sorensen was worse. But ultimately, this is Kyle Shanahan's. That's his choice. That was his choice at coordinator. And, I mean, if it's John Lynch, guess who hired John Lynch? Kyle Shanahan. This is very much a Shanahan operation. And there is a lot of his involvement on the field.
Yeah.
And does the loss today mean that the 49ers won't go on a run and won't make the playoffs? No. I still think that they should pick it up. They're going to get reinforcements. They're going to get 3 of their best players back. Yep. So, there's a lot to look forward to.
2 things.
Yeah.
1, Will, I love the Patrick Bateman profile photo. It's hilarious. 2, I would say one thing with Kyle Shanahan is, like, in the regular season and just overall for the Niners, I think like I do believe he's a good play caller. It's just a matter of when it comes down to those big moments, those big games, that's where he seems to falter a little bit more often, especially in the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Which usually that's when you're going up against the best of the best. And, your play calling is really like it's heightened. The effects of your play calling is heightened in those big games, in those big moments. And when you don't do it right, when you don't call the right things, it's going to show more often in those big moments, whether it's the end of a game in the fourth quarter in a 2-minute drill, or if it's the fourth quarter when you could have clocked it out and you didn't, or if it's the Super Bowl against Andy Reid or championship against Sean McVay, right? When you go up against those big coaches, you're probably prone to getting outcoached. And then on the reverse side for Shanahan, as far as what might help him in looking like one of the top offensive coordinators, which I think he rightfully is a top 5 coordinator in this league, offensive coordinator. But what helps with that is having a Christian McCaffrey, a Deebo Samuel, a George Kittle, and a quarterback who can run the system really well in Brock Purdy, right? Who is game by game he's already a star, but he's living up to that in his play. And especially today, and a guy like Brandon Ayuk, and on their offensive line is always so good at pass blocking, especially run blocking, which is why today kind of doesn't make sense. But when you have those players, I think that helps a lot for Shanahan and his play calling. But again, as far as criticizing him and such, it's really those big moments where it's like, it almost feels like it's a no-brainer. Like, come on, why aren't you running? And yet he's getting cute with it or whatever it is. And, oh, he's a genius. Well, again, in those big moments, you got to be right. And he's not always right. That's for sure. So,
yeah, I will say the decisions in this game aren't as egregious as the ones that he's made in the past, in terms of like the way he managed the clock in this game. Like, there has been much worse. Like in the Super Bowl, managing the completely abandoning the run in the third quarter was one of the main reasons why they lost that game. But like, I just think that aside from like the specific decisions in this game, it is just an embarrassing loss because I feel like they really outmatched the Rams. The 49ers team that was on the field today, if they were to play 10 times, the 49ers should win at least 9 of those. Yep. This was the one. This was the one.
Yep.
So Will says, I think it is Bay Area culture because I feel like it would have, he would have been ran out of town if it were New York. Yeah. Friend of the show, Grant Cohn says, like when he talks to Robert Saleh says how crazy the media is in New York. And, it's like, they have been trying to get him fired almost since day one. And that's just kind of how the media is in New York. Like they're very harsh. Yeah. And he tries to tell Shanahan, how good that Shanahan's got it. And dude, Shanahan gets so defensive with the media, and like it's like just be a little bit more introspective. Like, it's not a good look when you lose and you're defensive. I think that you can be realistic. You can take, criticism here and there. You don't like, it's almost like it seems like short-tempered,
Yeah, like a sore loser.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it's a better look when you just stand at the podium and say, yeah, I got to be better. Instead of like getting asked like, why didn't you go for it on 4th and 2? Well, I would have, if I knew I wouldn't have got it, I would have, just like being a smart ass,
No. This is what he like what he does. Like, all right, so Grant will ask him, what was the reasoning behind going for it, for 4th and 2? Oh, would it have been better if it was 4th and 1?
Yeah.
I mean, why have the mindset that nothing that you did was wrong? You
Yeah.
know, learn from your mistakes. That's all I ask. You know, if you
Yep.
make a mistake, you know, Will says, yeah, he snaps at Grant a lot. Yeah, you know, so I mean, it's kind of funny at this point, but it's also a little bit embarrassing that, like, you know, the head coach, like, some of these questions aren't even really that bad, and I just think it's a little personal, you know, with Kyle for Grant. So, you know, or it's personal for Kyle Shanahan when it comes to Grant.
Right.
Niner Trump, welcome to the channel. Says growing pains with Nick Sorensen. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I hope that's what it is just growing pains, because right now my take is maybe not the best fit. Uh, this team will be a lot different with Greenlaw and CMC in the lineup. For now, we need to take it a game at a time and look to get right versus the Pats. No, I mean, you're right. You're right. I question how much of an impact Dre Greenlaw is going to have when he gets back, because you never know with the Achilles. Like, is it going to be J.K. Dobbins where he's like, you know, looks good, has juice, or is it going to be, you know, didn't Crabtree tear his Achilles and like wasn't necessarily the same, or was that his ACL?
I'm not sure. I mean, was that like when he was going to like the Ravens or his last wherever his last
No,
stint
no, no.
was?
He tore something and then came back to the Niners and then afterwards went to the Raiders. This was before he was a Raider, but he
Oh
was a
man, I
good
mean,
Raider.
he was
Like, it
great
might
for the
take
Raiders.
it might take some time, is what I'm trying to say, with Dre Greenlaw,
Yeah.
because right now Kirk
Mm.
Cousins is coming back from a torn ACL torn Achilles that he suffered in the midpoint of the season last year,
Yeah.
and he does not look 100% on that leg. Versus Dre Greenlaw just tore it in February.
Yeah.
You know, we're just a couple months removed from that. You know, we're 7 months removed from that, but still, it's like it's
It's not.
typically
Yeah.
Achilles is like a year-long, you know, rehab process, or at least
Yeah.
historically has been. I know medicine has been advancing, but yeah. So, in terms of Christian McCaffrey, hopefully this Achilles tendonitis, it's funny, you know, the two players that you brought up, you know, with the reinforcements, it's an Achilles issue with both of these players. Hopefully McCaffrey is able to come back and contribute this year. I hope that they continue to just ease him back. Like, I know he's on IR, so they can't necessarily rush him back in the next 2 or 3 games, but in the next 2 games they can't rush him back. But I would hope that he doesn't try and push it and then, you know, re-aggravate it, or even worse, tear it, right? Knock on wood. But in terms of, you know, getting right against the Pats, yeah, I think it's definitely the right time for the 49ers to play a team like the Patriots. But then again, I thought this week it was a good time. This was the best time to play the Rams. This week was the best time to play the Rams.
Yeah.
I can confidently say that maybe going forward, the way to assess the 49ers is no game is a lock. And really, I guess maybe we're spoiled with what we saw last year. But currently, as it stands, no game is a lock for this 49ers team. And
until they
that's
can
a
get
little
healthy and consistent.
Yeah. M. Patel says, "What a pathetic coaching effort by Kyle Chokahan." Yeah. Now, I think Sorensen was worse, and you know, we talked about it a little bit, but the real reason why the 49ers lost, and you can, if you want to rewind as to, you know, the other reasons why. I mean, we were pretty critical of Kyle for a little bit here. The real reason why the 49ers lost this game, it comes down to this. Last week, Mike predicted the 49ers to win. Right now, as it currently sits, Mike has not predicted a single game correctly. And I predicted week 1 correctly for both teams. We're going to talk about the Raiders in a little bit, but yeah, this is the reason why the 49ers lost. It's Mike just doesn't know what he's talking about most of the time.
Yeah.
So
I'm just going to stick to fantasy.
don't get me started, dude. I played Mike this week, and Mike had Kyren Williams, and I just want you to picture me on my couch watching Kyren Williams walk into the end zone. And that's another thing too with Shanahan. Like the team did not put their best effort. That's another thing, and I think that goes hand in hand with not finishing a football game. But I had to sit there and watch. I don't know how graphic I want to go right now, but I had to watch the Rams completely march down and not only kill the 49ers, but they had to kill my fantasy team too. But I mean, at least I've won a couple championships. Mike has won one. It was the DeMar Hamlin season, and it came down to that. I mean, but that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, I had to watch Kyren Williams front flip over a defender for a touchdown. That's how my Sunday went. Mike was doing tricks all over me. Pause.
Yeah, I'm sure it was not fun.
Yeah. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's take these last couple comments, and then we're going to preview the 49ers versus Patriots. And really, I mean, it should be short. We got a lot out of our system here. But let's see. How many leads is he going to blow? I don't think it's necessarily how many leads is he going to blow, because I think leads get blown all the time. But like, it's just the game is in the bag. The game is in the bag, and you just have to put the team away. And it happens in similar fashions every single time. You know, like it's not just that like the Rams made a couple plays. Like the ball is in your hands. Milk the clock. It's all it takes. It's a 2-possession game. Milk the clock. Yeah. I left on that 3rd and 10, flew to LA to lose to the Lambs. Oh, so M. Patel, you were at the game. If you have a chance and you're still watching with us live, tell us about the game atmosphere. What was it like? Were there more Rams fans? Like, did this feel like another home game for the 49ers? That's more reason to be upset too. Like, you know, it's one thing if you're in a hostile environment, you know, and like the crowd is getting into it and that kind of stuff. But it's just like they just blew it. They just blew the fucking game. And Patel said it was like 80% Niner fans. Yeah, it's not even hostile. Obviously, that's not an official number, but I mean, he was there. That's what it felt like. And it was fun. Will says, damn, Mike. Vikes are legit. They shut down the Texans. The Texans offense even worse than us. Yeah, and I thought the Texans are a good team. The Vikings are a very good team. So, I mean, maybe the Rams are better than we gave them credit for, but to me this week, you know, I know Vikings was last week. This week, what we just saw today, I think Shanahan had more to work with and did less than what McVay did. McVay had less to work with and they won the football game. And maybe you can give credit to Matt Stafford too and Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams, like literally from the first quarter on, you could tell that he was not just going to lay over and die. And the 49ers did not choose to target him and shut him down. He was able to eat. What was his final stat line? Let me check. Box score. Okay. For the Rams, he had 24 carries for 89 yards, so he didn't get over 100 yards, but his first touchdown was a receiving touchdown, and then he got 2 more touchdowns after that. His longest run was 13 yards, but it was, I mean, it's just the little 5 to to 7-yard runs here and there. It's just like, the Rams were playing ahead of the sticks because they were able to get the run going.
Yep.
Let's see here. Let me pull this comment from Will. Man, how do you think I felt seeing Mason barely get any runs in the end zone? I got him in fantasy. Yeah, you and my brother both. Yeah. I have not talked to my brother today, but my brother is also a big 49ers fan, and he has Jordan Mason and McCaffrey on his team. I'm sure he was not happy. I couldn't imagine sitting there having, like, for me, I would just be sitting there like yelling at my TV, like run the fucking ball.
Yeah.
Demoke says, me after watching the Raiders game, Siri, play Lucid Dreams by Juice WRLD. I still have shadows in my room. Oh my god. That's
great.
a
With
pretty
the
good one.
Kermit. With the Kermit as the logo. That's
Oh
funny.
my god. I didn't even notice that. Oh,
That's
and you mentioned Will's profile picture, having
Yes.
having
Patrick Bateman.
Patrick
American Psycho.
Bateman. Yeah, so I think what Shanahan needs to do in order to improve is he needs to go into the vault of Levi Stadium, and he has to just go rent some tapes or
Return some videotapes.
Oh,
Yeah.
damn. Oh, okay. He's got to return the videotapes of how to finish a game, Shanahan 101, and pick up the Bill Walsh tapes.
Yeah.
Over there in the vault. Yeah. M. Patel says, Hope Media will actually ask tough questions. Team needs to make changes. I think it's a little too early to make personnel changes. It's still week 3. There's a long season ahead for this football team. But I do think I would just love to see Shanahan make adjustments to his strategy late in close football games. Niner Trump says, seems like Kyle got complacent after so many years of owning McVay. Whatever, we will run it back later in this season. And that's the good thing about divisional games is, like, it's a sour taste in our mouth today, but the Niners will be able to play the Rams again. The only scary part is in that game is, that how much later in the season is that? That's going to be week 15. Is Cooper Kupp going to be back? Like, you're telling me that they're going to add to the team that, just came back and won? Like, they were able to run the ball, and now you're going to be able to spread the field out a little bit because potentially Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are going to be back.
Yeah.
Again, Debo, yes. Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey are also going to be back too.
Yeah. In theory, it should even out. And for all we know, with how unlucky the Rams have been, especially this year, but recently with Kupp, like, who knows if Kupp will be healthy or, Puka or somebody else on their team, anybody. Their offensive line has been decimated. The fact that they won this game is incredible, especially in their ability to develop and maintain the running game against this Niners defense. It was impressive, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Real quick, Demoke says, have you seen the Antonio Pierce presser? We will get to the Raiders. We're going to preview the next 49er game, and then we will get right into talking about the Raiders. So stay tuned, Demokes. I know you've been here before, so you know how we do things. We'll go finish up with the 49ers, then we'll talk about the Raiders. Save the Raiders.
Last thing on this Rams recap. Do we know? Have we seen any update on Trent Williams? Did he return to the game?
He had cramps.
Cramps. Okay,
so
he's good.
He's
good.
They gave him IV, and I didn't get a chance to see the injury report. I don't know if it was like something a little bit more severe, but like during the broadcast, it was just cramps.
Okay.
And Patel says Brock and Juwan Jennings were awesome. Yeah, and then there was that play late in the game too. Like, it almost seemed like the 49ers were going to win the football game on the final play. And then Brandon Ayuk dropped the lateral, and then it was over.
Yeah, honestly, I rewatched it. I kind of wonder if Juszczyk kind of forced the ball a little too hard, And there was also another guy in front of Ayuk. I don't know if he should have gone to that guy. I mean, in theory,
Jennings.
the guy
I think that was Jennings.
Jennings probably should have been like lead blocking for Ayuk, but it was just like Juszczyk just turned and quickly like shot it at him. It was kind of like, I don't know if you can catch that, but in a perfect world, dude, that would have been insane if you guys won off of that. We've seen a couple of teams do that this year. Like, as far as last second Fumblerooski type plays, whatever you call those. But we haven't seen one actually work. So
yeah, it's almost like a hook and ladder, but like it's just like street, it's like street ball,
Yeah.
But it's pure chaos, and I love seeing those kind of plays. They're fun. It was exciting. Yeah. I was yelling at the TV. JJ wasn't even open on some of those plays. Dude, that catch that he made over the defender where he ripped the ball and oh my God, that was one of the best plays that I've seen a 49er receiver make.
Yeah.
That was crazy. And then it's just so cool to see Jennings actually be a baller because I remember when the 49ers drafted him, I texted Mike and I was like, man, I actually think it was a 7th round pick, but I was like, I think the Niners made a good pick here. And the fact that Shanahan gave him a chance to actually play, because the thing about Jennings was he wasn't fast, but I mean, he was a really good receiver, in college. And so, the fact that it was able to work out to where he could, show off his skill set. There's a lot of good players who just don't get the opportunity. And I think that Jennings is a baller, and I mean, he's clutch. He just shows up. Literally, he has always showed up when the Niners needed him most. On 3rd down, in the Super Bowl, and today when they have nobody else. Yeah. What do we do on defense? Trade for Reddick, sign Yannick. Feel like they need to. Honestly, I think the move here is, does Shanahan need to step in and override what they're doing schematically? I think they have plenty of talent on defense. Adding to it, I don't know if it's going to make the biggest difference if they're not in the correct spots.
What could be a good statement move, but it might be a little risky and the player might, react the opposite way of intended, but you could bench Javon Hargrave for a game, and just kind of show everybody hey, we're not fucking around. We need to perform here. I know we got injured guys and stuff, but we got a dude on the field here who's just not giving any effort on plays. And again, it's going to look horrible on film in a day or two whenever they watch it, just like it probably did last week after the Vikings game. You could bench him, and I think some guys could see that and be like, damn, what's he making again? Shit, coaches aren't playing. We gotta play up the standard here.
Yeah. But let's go ahead and preview the 49ers versus Patriots. So the 49ers are going to be coming back home. I know they were in their second home, this past game, Levi South. But they're going to be playing against a Patriots team who you could argue is even worse than the team that they played today. And
far worse. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with the quarterback, because, Stafford versus Jacoby Brissett, I don't even think it's close.
Yeah. I mean, between that and also the Patriots starting offensive line at full health might not be as good as the offensive line you guys played today for the Rams. No joke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Mike, please pick the Patriots. Please, for once,
I started laughing because I was going to say, I got bad news. I'm picking the Niners.
All right. Well, let me just show everybody again.
Yeah.
Mike has gotten everything wrong. So
honestly, I was driving today and I was thinking to myself, once I found out the Niners lost, because I knew the Raiders were losing, their game. Once I found out the Niners lost, I was like, oh my God, I'm 0-6. I should commit to the bit, and I should start picking the teams that I don't think are going to win and try to go full 0-16 or 0-17, whatever it is. all season for both teams and see if I can do it, which I probably wouldn't, At this rate, I might be better off picking the wrong team. But I'm going to stick to our usual rule set of picking who we think is going to win, and I got to pick the Niners in this one.
Yeah. So let me bring this comment up. Will says, man, I can see Stevenson just running it all over us. If the Patriots are to win this game, obviously you pick the 49ers, but if the Patriots did win this game, what would cause the outcome to swing that way?
I would have to say the Patriots would need to win the turnover battle, probably by quite a bit. They would need to win in the trenches, which I doubt. And they would need to run the ball. They would need to commit to the run because and here's one thing that might slightly be in the Patriots' favor is that they just played on Thursday, so they have an extra 3 days rest. And they'll probably be fully healthy. And I would assume they're going to continue starting Jacoby Brissett, but they did bring Drake May into this last game against, I believe it was the Jets on Thursday Night Football. Ramondre Stevenson had a bad game in the sense that I don't think they gave him any touches in that Jets game. And I felt like in weeks 1 and 2, the Patriots offense was a little better than expected, in large part because Ramondre was playing really well. So if they can get Ramondre going in this game, there's an avenue for them to be in this game, but I don't see them winning this one. I really don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if the 49ers are going to lose this game, I think a combination of things, would have to happen. I think, I guess, how when they played Minnesota, they just couldn't get a rhythm on offense. I think that would have to happen, which I don't know if the Patriots defense could even force the 49ers to get to a slow start. It seems like that Vikings defense is much better this year than it was last year. So, the Niners offense looked fine today, in my opinion, even without their superstars. So I guess I don't see the Patriots being able to slow down. Well, maybe they could slow down, but just outright make the 49ers offense struggle. I don't see that. What I could potentially see is if Jacoby Brissett has a good game, maybe the 49ers just can't, their defense just can't get off the field. Like Will said, is Stevenson going to have a good game? Stevenson's a pretty good back. I will say my expectation is that the 49ers are, I think they'll probably adjust. And I think even if they can't stop the Patriots offense, which I don't think is that hard to do, I still think that they can score enough on offense to still win this football game. I like, on the Patriots, I like, I kind of like Demario Douglas. I like Jalen Polk. They aren't even using their first round pick, with Drake May. He's not even good enough to see the field over Jacoby Brissett. I like the 49ers chances. I'm going to go ahead and lock it in. Barring like a special teams meltdown like today and the defense not being able to stay on the field, I don't see a scenario where the 49ers just outright lose this game besides their offense being out of whack and the other two factors that I literally just mentioned. So, Mike, you're locking it in, Niners?
Yeah.
And I am also locking it in. And what I will say too is there's a lot of time between now and that in this football game. So if anything changes, Mike, you'll just text me and we'll get it switched up, clarified before the next show. Let me take the last, couple comments, and then we'll move on to the Raiders. Everybody, I know there's good portion of 49er fans right now in the comments. Feel free to continue just hanging out, talking about football. We're going to talk about another team that suffered a disappointing loss today. If you're new to the channel, we are a 49ers and Raiders channel. We are pretty much like a Bay Area, sports kind of centric, but we really just focus on football. If you want to see we've done a stream talking about, the A's leaving. We've done, we will loosely talk about other sports here and there, but 99% of the time it's football. So yeah. If you want to, stay in, maybe even share your thoughts. If you're a 49er fan and you have thoughts about the Raiders, feel free to share it. This is the place. Because I know for a fact you won't hurt Mike's feelings unless you take personal shots. Mike's pretty weak at that, but I'm just joking. But I can guarantee that if you are a 49er fan, you have somebody in your family or somebody who is a Raider fan. Even though, like Will says, they're in Vegas now. So I think that's the first shot at Mike, to try and hurt his feelings. So, yeah. I got Niners. Mike's got Niners. Let's go ahead and move on to the Raiders. Mike, you could argue this loss might even be a little bit more disappointing than the loss the 49ers just suffered against the Rams, where they couldn't finish out that game. This seems like a game that the Raiders just never controlled from the beginning, and it was a team that they should have bullied. What happened, Mike?
Oh, it could have been a multitude of things. Personally, I mean, the number one thing, there were whispers on Raider Twitter of once Andy Dalton was named the starter for the Panthers, it was like, oh gosh, this just kind of screams trap game, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
It sucks because I think maybe I'll call it excuse would be well, because they switched quarterbacks, you don't have any film really on the offense, and it was kind of just if I had to guess, because I remember I think Antonio Pierce was saying going into the Niners preseason game, maybe, unless it was week 1. Oh, it was week 1 against Jim Harbaugh. He said that they were watching film from the 49ers back in, when Harbaugh was the head coach of the Niners, just to get some game film on what Jim Harbaugh's offense kind of looks like with Greg Roman. So I wouldn't be shocked if they were watching film from 2 or 3 seasons ago when Andy Dalton was playing for the Cowboys or whichever teams he was playing for, just trying to look for tendencies or something. But we haven't seen Andy Dalton coached by Morales, the head coach of the Cardinals or the Panthers.
Dave Canales.
Dave Canales, yeah. What did I say?
Morales.
I'm tired. Canales, thank you. I forgot his first name and his last name, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna go with this. Granted, although I forgot his name, I do think he has a good track record. He has a great track record of having quarterbacks play well, dating back to Geno Smith with the Seahawks and Baker Mayfield with the Buccaneers. And now in one game, Andy Dalton looks like a Pro Bowler against this Raider defense, who we were all talking up as being a top 10 defense in this league, and they got tranquilized by the Panthers. So I guess the excuse again, could be, well, they had no film on the offense, really. Like the only film they had was Bryce Young just shitting his pants all 60 minutes of that game, of the games that he played. So that's one. I think preparedness, like I have to preface that I didn't actually watch this game. I listened to this game. I listened to it on the radio, and like early on, it was like, okay, like this is fine. I mean, the Panthers scored a touchdown on the first drive. All right, well, we'll even this out and we'll win this game, And then Raiders go 6 plays, no, 3 plays, 3 and out, 6 yards, punt. Okay. Panthers get the ball. They end up punting. Raiders get the ball back. They score a touchdown. All right, cool. Tie game. They went 10 plays, 97 yards. Awesome. Right. Then the Panthers get the ball and they score a touchdown. All right. 14-7 Panthers. Uh-oh. What? This is the Panthers we're talking about, right? I'm just going to go through the rest of the Raiders drives. Okay. Not including the Panthers. Turnover on downs. Punt, missed field goal to end the first half after a touchdown by the Panthers. So 21-7, you miss a field goal going into halftime. Raiders get the ball to begin the second half. Punt, turnover on downs, punt. At this point, it is 33-7. So garbage time touchdown. The Panthers punt. Raiders are intercepted. Gardner Minshew. Panthers get a field goal. I hope I didn't say Cardinals earlier. And then Raiders get another garbage time touchdown with, I don't even know how many seconds left in the game. Let's see. With 56 seconds left in the game, Aiden O'Connell came into this game and threw a touchdown to Trey Tucker, who had a great game. And then, of course, the game ended. So mostly punts and turnovers on downs by the Raiders offense. So the next reason for why the Raiders did not win this game, the play calling. Luke Getsy. From what I saw on Twitter, because again, I was listening to the game, like it sounds like a whole lot of like, man, what the hell? Like, why can't they just get a first down? Just hearing it. And then you see on Twitter, like just all these Raider fans saying, yeah, Luke Getsy's not it, man. He is not it. And that was my worry. And I said it, I think after week 1 was, I think the season's going to ride on Luke Getsy. I think he is the difference of this season of, can you get your quarterback to just play efficient football? Obviously he can't, puppeteer Gardner Minshew, but you can set him up with good play calling to where you can scheme some guys open or have some first read snap, passes, just easy, quick cut, Devontae, slant, open, no question, right? But it sounds like there's nothing very intricate in this offense. It's a whole lot of horseshit, and today's offense shows that. Week 1's offense shows that. And you tack on, some turnovers and interceptions, you're going to lose the game just like week 1. Like, I think the reason they lost in week 1 against the Chargers was simply because of the turnovers and some dumb turnovers at that, right? And then this week, again, I said, what? Let's count. 1, 2 turnovers on downs, plus an interception, and then you could tack on the missed field goal, which that's Carlson, whatever. Like, that's 3 times where they didn't convert or they got straight up turnover. You're not going to win the game doing that.
Can I add in?
Yep.
I think this week was a horrible week for Luke Getsy. It's a horrible week for him. Put week 1 aside, right? Right now, Justin Fields, his former quarterback over in Chicago, is 3-0, right? And Justin Fields, everybody wrote off. He got traded for a 6th-round pick. He's 3-0 right now with the Steelers. Goes to a competent organization. Maybe it says a little bit more about the Chicago Bears, but it clearly wasn't the right fit there. And Luke Getsy was a part of that. Luke Getsy this week plays against a team that, his offense is highly favored against because the Panthers defense was going into this game the worst defense against the run. And to show for that, the Raiders had 16 total rush attempts.
Yep.
For 55 yards, 1 touchdown to the backup running back, which I don't get. And the longest rush was by their quarterback, Gardner Minshew, which was 10 yards. I also wasn't able to watch this game because, stupid ass, blackout restrictions and, market and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Will,
Pretty
I
shitty.
see in the comments you say that you live in Vegas. So you're able to get those games now, right? You're able to get all the Raider games there. Even though it seems like you're a 49er fan, it's on your local channel. So I guess lucky for your family if you have family, Raider fans or friends or whatever. But like, this is a bad week for Luke Getsy because his former quarterback excels after being removed from him. And then they can't even run the ball against a team that has allowed the most rushing yards.
Yep. Yeah.
Why are they not able to do it? What is it, Mike? Do you think it's the offensive line or do you think it's Luke Getsy?
I think it's both. That was going to be my next reason why the Raiders lost this game is because they got beat in the trenches on both sides.
And they were
Just
missing
quickly-
Derek Brown.
Yes, that's what's annoying is like they had every reason to run all over the Panthers just from weeks 1 and 2 from what other teams did to them, and also them losing Derek Brown, their best defensive player, right in the middle of the defensive line, a defensive tackle. Like that gives you all the reasoning to be able to have a good game from Zamir White, and yet 10 carries, 34 yards for Zamir White. The offensive line is not run blocking like at all. Like I can't even say they're run blocking bad. I'm just saying they're not doing it. It's horrendous. And it's so unfortunate, dude.
It's a scheme problem. It's a scheme problem
yep.
because you early in the football game have to get the run going. Otherwise, I've seen it many, many times. You can't just flip the switch. You can't. And then also, like, I'm kind of a firm believer of, getting guys in a rhythm. How are you going? Like, I don't know. I don't like constantly alternating running backs because they offer different skill sets. You are telling the defense exactly what you're going to do by doing, all right, passing downs. We're going to have, this player come in. Like you're essentially like saying, all right, you can kind of cut off the rushes up the middle when Alexander Madison is in the game, and you can kind of not expect a lot of dump offs and all these check downs to Zamir White when he's in the game. Like, to me, both running backs should be able to run all the plays. So I think that's a fundamental issue, but that's a personal issue. A lot of teams are successful with that, but that's just my personal opinion there. But you have to run the ball from the beginning of the game. Otherwise, you can't do it later. It just doesn't work out. You have to establish it. I'm a firm believer in that as well.
Yeah.
Because once you're able to get once you're able to run the ball, it opens up avenues for the receivers.
Yep.
Doing it backwards.
You can develop play action.
Doing it backwards is a great way to knock yourself out of the game quick. If it seems like this happened to the Raiders this week because they didn't have film on the, like you said, on the Panthers, and the Panthers were able to get out to an early start. They went up 7-0, and the Raiders had nothing to show for it. They kept punting. Like, I don't know, dude. to me, I just think that, like, if you're not going to dictate the pace of the game, you better get your passing game rolling early. And the Raiders didn't seem to be able to do that. And I think we know Brock Bowers is very good. We know Devontae Adams is very good.
They should be getting open.
Gardner Minshew? Yeah. Gardner Minshew? And that's the most important. So, like, really, that's a personnel problem. That's who's the Telesco. That's a Telesco and Antonio Pierce problem. But, like, dude, get the run going. I get it. It's not working, but get creative.
Yeah.
Get it rolling.
They gotta
put players in position. Run behind Colton Miller. Is Colton Miller the best offensive lineman the Raiders have right now, Mike? Or is he the most dependable?
Yeah, I would say he's the most dependable, although this early on this season he has not been, simply because I think he's still coming back from it, or still, how would you say, growing strength. Yeah, and playing through that shoulder issue that he had and had surgery on. I think he's still growing strength in that shoulder. So I don't know. And he was out all of training camp. So just like a Brandon Ayuk or Jamar Chase, it's like he didn't get any snaps in the preseason and training camp. So he, his body is still getting into the groove of things. I'd have to imagine that's harder at tackle than receiver. I could be wrong, but going up against Khalil Mack and then whoever the Ravens have, probably some pretty solid defensive ends. And then against the Panthers, they had Jadeveon Clowney and I'm forgetting who the opposite edge rusher was, but, solid. And I don't know. They need to get better. Simply, they need to get better, or they need to change the scheme. And Antonio Pierce, after last week's game, was saying, he wants to get Zamir White 20 carries a game. That's what he wants to do. And he wasn't able to do it in this game because they couldn't run. And they got down quickly. They were down 14 points at halftime. So, you mix in they can't run and, oh, shit, we're down 2 touchdowns. We're going to have to pass to get back into this. This was supposed to be the game to get it going, and they couldn't. So, I don't know. I don't know if they need to go back to power or what they need to do on the offensive line. But, and then as far as losing in the trenches, just to add on to that, Max Crosby picked up an ankle injury at the end of the Ravens game last week. We didn't know the severity of it. Turns out it's a high ankle sprain that he played on in this game. And then Thayer Munford at right tackle, he goes out, I think, pretty early in this game and had to get replaced by DJ Glaze. I want to say it might have been a knee injury. I'm curious to see the severity of that for Munford. I like Glaze, but, we're throwing a rookie out there. And then at times, I don't know if Dylan Parham was getting benched or if he was hurt. I would have to assume he was hurt or something, but Jackson Powers Johnson was getting in the game for Dylan Parham at right guard. I don't know. I'd like to see Jackson Powers Johnson at left guard, but getting him some snaps is good, but yeah, they definitely need to figure it out on the offensive line. Like, I'd say that's mission number 1 right now, but also, I mean, Crosby playing on a high ankle sprain is not good. That is not good.
So I'm going to go by the play-by-play because I definitely was very critical of not getting the run going. And so I'm going to go through the Raider drives, right?
Yep.
So this is the first quarter, the Raiders are down 7-0. So Zamir White, it says, left guard, to Las Vegas, 32 for 2 yards. Zamir White up the middle, on second down, 2nd and 8, to the Las Vegas, 36 for 4 yards. And that's when Thayer Munford was injured on the play. So maybe,
first drive?
Yeah, first drive.
Damn, yeah.
Yeah. So let's see here. Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew pass incomplete, deep right to Jacoby Myers, and then they obviously have to punt. Let's see the next drive. Zamir White up the middle, to the Las Vegas 6 for 3 yards. So they were backed up. They were backed up in their own end zone. They had to run. Zamir White up the middle for 3 yards. So then 3rd and 4. Gardner Minshew pass short left to Alexander Madison, for 11 yards. Gardner Minshew pass short right to Jacoby Myers for no gain. Then Gardner Minshew deep pass middle to Trey Tucker for 54 yards. Okay. So it seems like right now to that point, if Luke Getsy is in a meeting room, he can say, I'm trying to run the ball. The first 2 plays of both of these drives, are, they're just not working. And then the pass is working. 54 yards on a pass right there, Trey Tucker. Okay, Alexander Madison, to the right side for 2 yards. So it doesn't matter which running back it is. It's inefficient. Thayer Mumford is the right tackle, Mike?
Yep.
Okay. Zamir White to the left for 9 yards. Okay, picking up steam. Zamir White to the left, 6 yards. And then Gardner Minshew pass incomplete. Gardner Minshew ran out of bounds, scrambled, for 4 yards. Madison up the middle for 2 yards, touchdown. So this was all right. Their first scoring drive. It seemed like they were able to run the ball when they finally got, after. Let's see. This was a drive where they were able to use the pass to set up the run. Right? So kind of backwards because the run wasn't working early in this drive. After, obviously the momentum shifted in the Raiders' favor when they hit that 54-yarder to Trey Tucker, who you said had a good game. Okay.
Tucker,
but they were able to
Myers.
mix. They were able to mix. Let's see here. The next drive, Gardner Minshew short pass to Davante Adams for 15 yards. Zamir White a rush to the right, 2 yards. Zamir White up the middle for 1 yard, and this is against the worst rushing defense so far. Obviously things will change because it's just week 3. Alexander Madison up the middle for 3 yards. Gardner Minshew incomplete pass to Brock Bowers. Okay. Gardner Minshew, incomplete pass to Davante Adams. So they're not even playing ahead of the sticks. So now, hold on. Penalty on the play. Cornerback J.C. Horn, defensive pass interference, 15 yards. Okay. So it's 1st and 10. Alexander Madison, 2 yards. Gardner Minshew, short pass left to Davante Adams for 6 yards. Incomplete to Adams, and then they punt. And they're already down 14-7 at that point, and they punted. I'm not going to go through every single drive, but maybe all right. I'm going to give Luke Getsy the benefit of the doubt on these drives. He was. And I know I feel really stupid right now for saying like this is a bad week for him because he can't set up the run against the worst run defense. But maybe this is more of an offensive line issue because Luke Getsy, to his credit, is calling those runs. But the offensive line isn't imposing at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, it almost seems like they're really trying early on to develop the run, and they can't. So then they have to punt the ball or whatnot, and then they get down into a negative game script, and now it's just like, well, we not only can we not run because our offensive line isn't doing well, setting up the run, but now we can't run because we're in a negative game script. And it worked out against the Ravens. Against the Chargers, Minshew turned the ball over, so that didn't work out. And then this week, the unfortunate next option happened of the opposing offense popped off and they couldn't catch up, and this is the fucking Panthers. Like if the Panthers are going to kill you guys, just wait until you play, I don't know, the Chiefs, unless you're going to play super physical against them because, we want to win this one. I don't know. I don't know if they overlooked the Panthers. I just think it came down to game planning, and I agree, the offensive line, I don't know if it's just the players themselves or if it's the scheme change, if it's or if it's, I don't know. I'm going to be watching much more closely to the offensive line moving forward. In fact, I kind of plan on watching the game back tomorrow, especially because of something that Antonio Pierce said, which I guess now is the right time to segue into that, which is he mentioned in the post-game presser that he saw, or however he said it, there were players that were making business decisions. Yep. And then he said, we as a team will also be making business decisions. In other words, those players might be getting benched. I'm really curious to see who those players are. I know Davante Adams was asked about it after the game in the sense of did you notice that, And I think his response was something to the realm of as a player, that's kind of hard for me to notice. I'm sure if it's super obvious, yes, but that was kind of his thing. And I think Max Crosby was asked about it too, but I didn't catch what he said. I'm curious who this is about. I wonder if it's on the offensive line. I wonder if it's a receiver. I wonder if it's a couple of defenders, maybe just like a Javon Hargrave sort of scenario of if it's I don't want to say the wrong name, but just saying what if it's now I'm forgetting his name, number 97, the opposite defensive end right now, or Tyree Wilson, Christian Wilkins, Janarius Robinson, or if it's a corner, if it's a Nate Hobbs or Trevon Merrick or honestly Divine Diablo didn't play in this game. I don't think it's Spillane. I'll tell you that much. It's not Spillane, but Luke Masterson. I don't know who it would be because I didn't see the game, but I'm going to be looking for it.
If it's my guess, it's probably somebody on defense. Because I'm sure that somebody on defense is very upset that the offense isn't keeping them in the game against the worst team in the league, or one of the worst teams in the league.
And it's just man, we just got murdered. Let's just get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
What are we gonna do now? They already put 33 on us.
Yeah, so that's just what I like. I've played football before, and it's all right, if the offense isn't doing well, you see, and I've played for undisciplined high school teams. These are professional athletes, but I've seen guys where it's man, fuck this. I've been working my ass off all game, and the offense isn't doing shit. We're not gonna win this game. Why even try? So maybe it's that. Maybe it's that. It's a guy on defense, fuck it, we're already not going to win this game. Why the hell am I going to give my full effort?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm going to look for it. I'm going to see if I can find the player, but I'll throw out one more name just because he's a prominent name and it's kind of the most important name right now. Potentially Gardner Minshew, because his last pass in this game was an interception, and it was a pretty ugly one. Where it was kind of this miscommunication between him and Davante Adams, and I think it was more on Minshew than Davante, because Davante was able to get himself open doing kind of a curl out. He was outside and he did a curl out, I think that's what you would call it, and Minshew just threw it directly at the corner. I'm assuming he thought Davante was going to cut in, not out. but I'm assuming maybe it was an option route where Devontae just saw the way the corner was playing him and went, I'm going in. I mean, out. Sorry. I'm cutting out. And if the ball's there, that's where I'm going to catch it. And it was like the way that Devontae cut, the ball was already thrown. There was no chance Devontae was getting to that pass. The corner caught it. And with all of those drives going to shit for the Raiders, I wonder if maybe because Aiden O'Connell ended up playing in this game, I wonder if Antonio Pierce felt that Gardner Minshew wasn't giving it his all. Maybe. We'll know if against Cleveland, Aiden O'Connell's the starter. I think that would be telling. But I'm not exactly banking on that, but I'm curious.
Yeah. So, in terms of what Antonio Pierce said at the press conference, I mean, I love that Antonio Pierce is so upfront, with the media, but I have to say that's the wrong thing to say as a head coach of a football team. You don't openly call out he didn't use any names, but now everybody is trying to pinpoint one specific player. And now everybody's looking for who to look for.
Yeah, I mean, maybe from the fans and maybe even media's perspective, but I think in the locker room, it's probably like the same goes for what I said about like, well, if Shanahan wanted to make a statement, he could bench Javon Hargrave. Like everybody could look at Javon Hargrave sideways, but I think the players, the way that they take that is shit. I better not fuck up. I better not get caught lacking because I'll get benched. So it gives them that little bit of extra drive to play a little harder because clearly in this Panthers game, the Raiders didn't play hard enough.
Yeah, but I just think the way that he went about it is like, I saw some players making business decisions. All right, we're going to make some business decisions too. It like to me, you, if you're a head coach in that position, instead of like that's kind of sending shots at your team. And I think in that position, you want to speak to the player directly.
I'm sure he will. I'm not trying to be.
No, I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
I'm confident that he will.
Yeah.
But it sends a message, in my opinion, of like a us versus that guy, because he is going to out that player. He is going to talk to that player.
Yeah, it depends on the way that he goes about it in person with them and with the team, Like if he's just on the practice field, like, yeah, Tyree Wilson, that's why you fucking sucked on Sunday. Like during practice, everybody be like, damn, coach, shit. But if it's just like, before practice kind of pulling him aside and just saying, hey, man, if you don't pick it up, like, we're going to have to, bench you for Janarius Robinson or whatever, And that's just throwing that out. Like, I'm not saying Tyree Wilson's the guy, just as a what if, right? And the same would go for Minshew, whether it's they bench him or if it's just like, hey, man, like last chance, dude, pick it up. Like, stop throwing these little weak little passes and like figure it out,
Well, all right. I want you to tell me, Mike, what's the difference between these two statements? Yep. Yeah, there were some guys making business decisions, and we'll make some business decisions too. Versus, I was very disappointed with the effort. Or I was, it was very something along the lines of, I was very disappointed with our effort overall. I feel like we could have played a better game, and we're going to work to correct that moving forward.
Yep. Yeah, I'm.
What's honestly, the difference between those two statements, between like the message that gets sent?
I would say the second one is more collective for the team.
Yep.
Which, like, I agree, it should be like that. And what I was gonna say is, like, I'm curious if he also said that, because what the coach really should be saying is the kind of cookie cutter, hey, we didn't play up to that team. That was a letdown out there, and we need to play better, period, as a team. I myself as the head coach, like, allow yourself to be put on some blame of like, I need to do a better job of getting these guys ready for Sunday. Our coaches, we have to get our guys ready for Sunday better. Yada yada yada. But I just wonder if if he really saw something drastic, like just standing on the sidelines and going like, dude, he just did that again. That motherfucker just stood there, Javon Hargrave style. I could see why he would go on the podium and say, nah, man, like not on my team, essentially. And I haven't seen the presser, so I don't know if he said the second option that you gave. I'm curious if he did. And I get what you're saying. I personally don't have a problem with him, without saying names, calling out players for not giving their fullest efforts, if that truly is what happened, in the sense of, in his opinion or his wording, guys are making business decisions. What business decisions sound like is not making a tackle. That's what it sounds like. So if there was a linebacker or a corner out there just like half-assing and not going in with his shoulder or whatever and not making a tackle, it's like he shouldn't call out the player in the media. He shouldn't call out the player like right as practice starts. He should just let it be. Like, in my opinion, after a shit performance against the Panthers, like bona fide going into this week, the worst team in football, I'm perfectly fine with him being like, yep, there were some guys out there that were not playing up to standard, and that's going to change, and that's not how he said it. But, I just think you got to let it be known, because we've talked about it, especially after week 1, of like, hey, I don't know how long the leash is on Antonio Pierce. So if he's going to prove that he deserves to be the coach for the long term, he's got to have a grip on his team, So I don't blame him for just going out there and saying, hey, man, there are some guys that I saw not playing the way that they should, and that's not going to slide. Things are going to change. So I'm fine with it.
Yeah,
but I agree
I guess,
that the second
to me,
thing's
it
better.
was the tone kind of seemed standoffish rather than we're going to work to fix this.
I mean, when he says we are going to make business decisions, I think it sounds like guys are going to get cut, heads are going to roll, maybe by assumption. But business decisions can be something as simple as, we're going to talk to them, or we're going to let them know, like, hey, well, that would be talking to them, or we're going to bench them, but they're going to do something in the manner of Raider business to get that fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily that it means their heads are going to roll.
Mm-hmm. So Will agrees with you. Will says, I agree with Mike. If we really want to get this team through the mud, we got to change the culture. Yeah, I just think like every coach does this every good coach will do this behind closed doors, and to the media, they'll kind of give a generic answer, and I'd say the coaches I've seen, when they're about to get fired, that's when they throw out the standoffish lines. And Antonio Pierce, I think, is going to have this full season, unless like the Raiders just go on a massive losing streak.
Yeah,
I think Mark Davis is going to roll with Antonio Pierce, but like, if your guys aren't, buying in, I mean, like we won't know until next week, or if we even do see any changes next week, which he said there will be business decisions. Does that mean somebody's going to get traded? Does that mean somebody's going to be flat out benched? Does that mean somebody's usage is going to be a whole lot less than it was? Like what exactly does that mean? How are things going to change and get better? Yeah. Also, Will says, but I see your point. He's talking about me. I'm Ninerhead now. That's my new Twitter name. No, sorry, I had a comment on the screen for a very long time. So unfortunately with StreamYard, the comments will take our names off. I'm Josh. This is Mike. This is the Silver and Gold podcast on YouTube. But yeah, no, I just think that it could have been handled better. I get the message that he was trying to send, but I'd say the delivery wasn't the best. That's what I'd say. Like
Yeah.
my main issue with like the press conference.
Yeah. I think the thing with Antonio Pierce, this is my last point on this. Like, I don't think he's the type of guy, coach, whatever you want to call it, to go out there and give your usual cookie cutter answers. He's very good with the media in the sense that he's very honest. And which can at times maybe not be the best decision or whatnot.
Well, that's why the players like him or have liked him up to this point.
Yeah. And I think also the media likes him. I think the media likes him way more than Josh McDaniels, you know. And even a John Gruden was like funny, but like when it came to giving kind of hints or answers to things, he was very good at not giving those answers. Not that, you know, Antonio Pierce isn't. It's just in the sense of this right here, it's like he could have said like your option of like just saying, you know, as a team, we didn't play up to standard and you know, we need to play better and we will. Something like that. Like coaches say that all the time. Like we need to coach better, we need to play better, and we will work on that. We will do that. Something like that. But instead, he made it very clear. Like I saw things that I take issue with, players making business decisions, and as a franchise, as a team, we will have to make business decisions in response to that. Again, I have no problem with it. I think Antonio Pierce is a little more forward in the media than most coaches are, especially when it comes to his reaction to things, you know?
Yeah,
So,
maybe this is my Bay Area sensitivity rubbing off. Like maybe I'm the only person who has an issue with that, but like I don't know. To me, like I get what you're saying, and I see your point too, where it's like, you know, since Antonio Pierce is up front, like he's just gonna say it because I mean it's on his mind, like, and he has to send a clear message to his team that that shit's not gonna fly. And then,
yeah. And
all right, maybe, all right. This is conspiracy theory. Do you think that he has nobody in mind? He just wants everybody to like, oh shit, you know, who the fuck is he talking about? Like, I better get my shit together.
That could absolutely be a possibility.
Like, oh shit, nobody's fucking job is safe.
Yeah. I mean, not that I think that he would flat out lie about that or something, but just it wouldn't be the worst thing to do. Just again, what I was going to say before you mentioned that was just I think an important aspect to this is his job security and his, you know, metaphorical leash. You know, the rumor is he is on a 2-year deal. They don't have to keep him both years. You know, if this team falls flat on its face and they have like a top 7 pick again this year, I wouldn't be completely shocked if Antonio Pierce was let go. You know, I personally think the fall guy just kind of foreshadowing or looking through a whatever you call that, looking glass,
a glass ball or
a glass. Yeah, exactly. However you call that,
like a magic glass ball or a crystal ball. Crystal ball.
I was gonna say magic 8-ball. Damn it. But yes, crystal ball. If I had to look through the crystal ball and say, all right, like who's the fall guy? It's Luke Getsy, you know. And honestly, while you were talking earlier, I was thinking like I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, like a lot of Raider fans on Twitter, like if they have Luke Getsy as the play caller in week 4, this team is not serious. Like Raider fans are that out on him right now of just I'm done with Luke Getsy. And again, I need to see a little bit more before I can make that decision, but it's clear as day. Like every year dating back to John Gruden, it was just every year it was obvious who the fall guy would be. It was like, all right, quarterback, or well, not quarterback yet, but Paul Gunther, and then this guy, and then Derek Carr, and then John Gruden, and then Josh McDaniels comes in, and it's like, well, Jimmy Garoppolo, Josh McDaniels, so forth, And this year it is Luke Getsy. Like I said it week 1, everything's on his shoulders. If he can't get it to work, this season's probably fucked, And I mean, the other fall guy would be Gardner Minshew, and really, it probably should be both of them if everything falls on its face. But I don't know. I think if Antonio Pierce is feeling this pressure, even if it's just internally, but also just being realistic with himself, of like, I need to have a firm grasp on this team, and I need to win, because if I don't know how short that leash is. There's no promises that I will be the head coach in 2025. I could be the fall guy. I need to do everything in my power for this team to be my spitting image, So that's why I don't really fault him at all for saying what he said.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to do what he's got to do.
Yeah, Will says that he agrees that especially early on in a season, you want to cut that sort of attitude out as soon as possible. And then Tony, returning to the show. Tony, thank you so much for checking us out. You are one of the early people who have checked us out, like last season. I still remember you're a Cowboy fan, but Tony kind of agrees with me. A good coach will take responsibility for a loss and protect the players. This, to me, saying business decisions doesn't seem like he's protecting the players. And yeah, I mean, he didn't outright name the player, but
right.
It's calling out your team.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, like looking back on the Niners earlier, would you want not would you want Shanahan to say something at the presser, obviously, but would you want Shanahan behind closed doors to straighten things out with Javon Hargrave? Would you want that?
Yes.
Right. Like, to me, if that's what Antonio Pierce is doing, in whatever way he does it, that is fine by me. If there is a player or 2 or 3 or 4 that are not giving their all for the Raiders, I much appreciate my head coach getting that shit cleared as quickly as possible. It is week 3, going on week 4. We just lost to the worst team in football. Which, that was the other thing I was going to say before I get to this comment. We were talking about, like, man, for you, Josh, personally, you felt like the Chiefs game was probably the only impressive win for Antonio Pierce's Raiders until that Ravens game last week. Well, how about this game? This is the opposite. This is probably his worst loss as the head coach of the Raiders.
Yes and no. Yes, and they should have won this game, but another bad one was the one against Minnesota last year.
Minnesota was bad, but to me,
this one's worse. This one's worse.
Yeah, the way I felt about that game was like the defense did what they had to. It was just the offense couldn't score, And then I'd say maybe the only other options would be like the Colts game or whichever game that eliminated from the playoffs last year, where it was like, hey, high intensity, like if you can keep winning, you might make the playoffs, and then they don't win against the Colts, But it was a close game, hard fought. This one is just like, what the hell happened, other than bad preparedness and not enough film on the Panthers and whatever else, right? Bad play calling on offense. But to this question from Tony, I honestly need to go back and watch the presser from Antonio Pierce. I do want to find out if he said anything to that point of himself taking responsibility. I'd like to think that he would, but maybe he didn't. Maybe he just outright was pissed off and just let out some emotion when maybe he should have gone more cookie cutter in his response. I'm definitely curious with that. So I would say what he said that we are talking about of, business decisions, that is telltale headline, clickbait media stuff right there. That is the crumbs of the cookie right there. Like the overall cookie being the presser, the crumbs is what the media eats and will spit back out to the media. So him saying
Yes.
business decisions, that's what everybody's talking about. He could have said 36 minutes worth of this was all my fault for all I know, but I need to watch the presser. So I can't say that he did.
Yeah, so keep an eye out tomorrow for our thumbnail where it says business decisions on the thumbnail, and it's is Antonio Pierce outing the locker room as the title of our video.
Yeah.
No, I'm just playing. No, we're not going to do that. It's probably just going to be Raiders Week 3 recap and Week 4 preview. But let me get to a couple comments here. You know, since we're talking about Raiders Panthers. Yeah. So Will says he lives in Vegas, so he's got to keep up with the Raiders as well. Obviously, Will is still here contributing, to the show, commenting his thoughts.
Love it.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And he says, sorry that they're in Vegas now, bro. Oh, I think I pulled that one up already. Niner Trump said, Andy Dalton continues his undefeated streak versus the Raiders. The dude simply owns them.
Man, honestly, I hadn't paid enough attention to this, but I think he's on to something here.
You know
It's
what's
crazy.
funny? So like fun little fact. I played Madden 13 religiously, and I had a connected careers. And there was a season where Andy Dalton became the starter of the Raiders and won the Super Bowl. So the Raiders were not good in 2013, nowhere close to good, but I just want, I played through many, many seasons. I must have won like 14 Super Bowls as a player, for like the 49ers. And then I think I went to another team, so it would like even out a little bit. But there was one year where I think I lost in the playoffs, and then the Raiders won with Andy Dalton in the Super Bowl, and he's undefeated. So like maybe that's just like they're kind of soulmates, And Andy Dalton is just the dominant, the alpha.
Yeah. 2025, Andy Dalton, starting quarterback for the Raiders. Super Bowl bound.
You would like that, wouldn't you, Raider boy? Will said for him over in Vegas, they're on local Channel 8 CBS. Yeah, man. Las Vegas just took it from the Bay Area. Obviously I've got Niner gear on, but it's still kind of cool to be able to watch both teams from the area. And I know they're in Vegas now, so they're not from the area anymore, but the fan base for the Raiders still resides in Oakland. Right? So yeah, I would say most of the fan base is still in Oakland. And I don't know, Will, do you have you noticed people in Las Vegas convert to becoming a Raider fan, or is it just still the same old, a mixed bag because of the gambling, Will asks, hey, Mike, do you like having Minshew as, the starting quarterback? Obviously not ideal, but with the current quarterback room that the Raiders have, is that who you would prefer starting?
Great question. Coming out of the preseason, absolutely not. I was not a fan of Minshew. From what I saw in the preseason, I saw a lot of inaccuracy and what seemingly bad decision making relative to Aiden O'Connell being very accurate and making what I felt was mostly good decisions. So I was a little perplexed by them choosing him as the starter, but after the Raider game, I felt like I understood it. Even going into week 1, I was like, all right, after a couple of days, I calmed down and I was like, all right, I understand the mobility is a real thing here because Aiden O'Connell is not mobile. He can move around in the pocket, shifting and evading pressure, but that only lasts so long for him if the pressure's getting, if the pocket is collapsing, Whereas Minshew, it's he can maybe sense the pressure a little better. And what is way better is his ability to get out of the pocket and, make an additional effort to make a play, you know? And that's what I want for this offense in the sense of whenever we finally draft a quarterback, I want a mobile quarterback, a dual threat quarterback, at the very least, a quarterback who is a little faster than Minshew and has the mobility and very good pocket awareness to extend plays. That's what I want for this offense. What I also want for this offense is a fucking offensive coordinator who can like be consistently good, you know. But to answer your question, I'm not a big fan of Minshew. I think for what this offense needs, he might be the better option. But there might just come a point where it's like if he's throwing interceptions in every game, which he has so far, um, if they're struggling after week 4 or 5, just throw O'Connell in there. Like, what are you going to lose at that point? So,
yeah. Will says there are a lot of Raider fans, here even before the stadium was built. We have a lot of Latino and Hispanic folks here. They love the Raiders. So now there's even more fans.
Yeah, the vibe that I got was when I went to the Raider game against the Giants last year, like the Raider fans are there, just I don't live in I don't live in like a Henderson or whatever. Obviously, I live in the Bay Area. I'm curious, how that fandom is growing because what I was always amazed with, just because again, from Bay Area local standpoint, looking in at Vegas, it was like when they had the expansion NHL team, the Golden Knights, I was astounded at how good their like attendance and just fandom was. Like very diehard immediately, year one, So I was like, damn. And then Raiders go to Vegas. I'm like, I think they're going to be okay. And then you have other positives like no state income tax and all that. So, I just the one negative that I had, other than them leaving, a stadium that's 10 minutes away from my house, and cheaper tickets and all that stuff. The main negative for me for them going to Vegas was that is a tourist attraction of a city, which means a lot of home games that will not look or feel fully like home games like the Black Hole in Oakland used to look or feel like, of like 80% Raider fans, 20% away fans, or 30 at most, Now it's like it's pretty at times 50-50, and that's unfortunate. Hopefully with time and really with a consistently good team, with a quarterback and a head coach and offensive coordinator leading the way that the fans are really bought into, and again, just consistently winning, like winning cures everything. I think the fans will really start showing up, but until then, it's going to be a tourist attraction.
Yeah, I mean, they will definitely show back up because I think the Raiders have a good loyal fan base, and it's one of those things where good fan bases will travel. So if a majority of them do still live in Oakland, there's still going to be a good portion of them who will travel to go see the Raiders. And then, the newly converted Vegas residents will, go out to games. It's just a matter of when, because from experience, the 49ers built Levi Stadium and then, had the fallout with Jim Harbaugh. And then they just went to having, empty crowds.
Yeah.
And then I remember my first 49er game was Kaepernick's last game in the NFL. And dude, there were a lot of Seahawks fans there. So it's like, it's one of those things where like there are different eras of, different franchises football. And, the Niners now in the Shanahan era are going to sell out the stadium until they just are not good, period. Like they are relevant, and right now the Raiders are not relevant, but eventually they will become relevant.
Yeah.
I would be hard pressed if Mike and I live the rest of our lives and they never become relevant. Mike might be homeless and crack addict or something like that by then. But
I will be a sad old man saying, "This is our year, I swear. I'm telling you, this is it." And it's like been 60 years of an average of 5-12.
Mike's
Yeah,
gonna be
no.
like, "Remember Jack Del Rio and Derek Carr?
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine if he never broke his leg."
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna be telling my grandson, like, I remember when they were in Oakland. And he's gonna be like, okay, grandpa, go to bed. Go to bed.
Derek Carr should have won the MVP that year.
I don't know why you had to add in the eyes crossing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Cut you off guard, huh?
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Will says, with the NHL, that was the first major league sports team that we've had, or that we've ever had. So people were super hyped when we got the Golden Knights, and it helped that they stacked their roster immediately. That they did.
Yep, they did. Yeah, the expansion
have-
draft was just awesome.
They have won a Stanley Cup, right? If not two.
I believe they have won one. Will can
Yeah.
definitely confirm that. But to all these points, again, I just think winning cures everything. And once the Raiders start consistently winning, like think of like the Detroit Lions right now, you know, like their fans have been dying for a winning team for literally 60 years. I think Raider fans every year are just foaming at the mouth for their team to be good. Once we can get that quarterback in there who can help make this thing a consistently winning team again, the fans will be there because they are just, we are dying to have that, you know, back on the field and to just feel confident. Like I remember watching like old highlights and, you know, like full games on YouTube of like the 2001 Raiders and stuff. And it's just like, you could see that you could just feel the difference in hype in the fans. And, you know, in part it's an Oakland thing for sure of like, if it panned to the crowd, there is nothing but black and silver, nothing but black and silver. And I'm just hoping for that for the Raiders in Vegas at some point. And it will take winning to get there.
I'm going to get to Tony's comment in a second because it's a really good question or really good, idea.
Point.
But Will says, also doesn't help that those Allegiant tickets are stupid expensive. So it's hard to get people, there that aren't diehard Raider fans.
Yeah. Or just, people with money who are intending to make a vacation out of the weekend when, my team is from Baltimore. I live in Baltimore, but I want to go on vacation to Vegas for the weekend. And, the Ravens are playing the Raiders. It's like no brainer. Whereas a Raider fan, whether they live in Henderson or in the Bay Area or LA, it's like, well, we're playing like shit. Why would I spend the money to either drive or fly there, get a hotel, and pay all that money to go to the game when it's like, I could just watch it at home and watch them lose,
Yeah.
So
Tony says the Cowboys have a mobile third string quarterback that was a first round pick. I might know who that is.
maybe.
Yeah, possibly. Who may be available for a trade. You got a good running back. Do you have a good running back that you aren't using? LOL. Here's the thing. So I'm gonna kind of answer the question. So as a manager of both Zamir White and Rico Dowdle, both running backs are being underutilized. I don't know, like if the Raiders were to trade Zamir White to the Cowboys, I don't think Zamir White would be the starter there.
Yeah, and it would be a convoluted Dallas run game, but also like from the Raiders' perspective, what are they going to do now in the run game? Like I understand the thought process of trading for Trey Lance, but they're not going to actually run Madison 20 times a game. And, you could throw in Dylan Lobby, who's been inactive these 3 weeks so far. But still, it's like you'd be looking at a pretty tough running back room, which already it already feels like that.
Who's the other running back? There's Madison, and then is it McAllister? No, Abdullah.
Yeah. And he's a
But
receiving back, which is he's more on line with, Alexander Madison than Zamir White. Like Zamir White is the, power running back, and Madison is more of like the change of pace sort of guy, and then Abdullah is purely a pass catching running back.
Yeah, no. So I don't think that the Raiders have enough running backs to trade to Dallas, but honestly, I think Rico Dowdle's fine. I just think that they are now figuring out, they're late to the party because I think everybody is. They're now figuring out that Rico Dowdle has a little bit more, he's got more juice than Ezekiel Elliott does right now at both stages, like right now, both in their career. And this week was not a great week for them to run the football, but I think, I didn't watch the Cowboy game, but the fantasy numbers looked fine to me, in terms of they were playing a tough team to run on, and they were down in the game. So I think that if the Cowboys were to play against a team who is, not the Ravens, or not a team that they're going to be trailing early in the game, I think that they should be able to commit to the run more. And I think my hunch is the Cowboys are figuring that out a little bit. They need to be a little bit more balanced. So if they just use Dowdle more, he's young, he's got kind of fresh legs, I think they'll be okay. That's the thing. Everybody thinks that you need like a top tier running back. You really don't. You need a good scheme and a good offensive line. Tony said, how about a 4th round draft pick, in exchange for Trey Lance? So
yeah, I mean, the other aspect of Trey Lance, if I'm not mistaken, he's on the final year of his contract.
yes.
I could be wrong there. But if that's the case, what makes that difficult for the Raiders is, okay, yeah, we could trade for him, but will he have enough time to prove that he's worth a second contract with the team? And what will he be worth? Are they willing to spend that? All of that in mind. Like, unfortunately, Minshew's on a 2-year deal, and they might have even before like training camp or during training camp, they might have even restructured his deal to kind of make some of next year's salary guaranteed to create space this year, which basically means they're going to be paying for Minshew regardless. So, why trade for another guy that you have to pay when, if the season doesn't go the way that we want it to, get yourself in the position to draft a quarterback. I'm trying to see a Cam Ward. There are a few options out there. So in the draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I was the Raiders, I would take a chance on Trey Lance. That's because I like the kid. I'd say probably it's not a good sign that he has not made it yet, but he's still young. He's still he showed me, I know he had that 5 interception game in the preseason. He threw 50 passes and, got intercepted. Some were really bad, but the Cowboys made their long-term decision with Dak Prescott. I still like the traits of Trey Lance, and worst case scenario, you send a later draft pick over to the Cowboys, and worst case scenario, you're bad and you have a high draft pick next year. So, that's all I'll say about that. But M. Patel tuning back in for the second time tonight, saying still live, Die Hard Niners channel. So M. Patel, we talk about the Raiders and we talk about the 49ers and the Raiders, here on this channel. So we've sort of transitioned our talk away from, the 49ers, and we are talking about the Raiders right now. But, towards the end, we'll probably get to, last minute questions about both teams. Like I see Will has one right now, but let's finish up this topic, and then we'll give our predictions for the next game, Mike, and then we'll take a couple comments and we'll we'll get out of here.
Yep. Let's do it.
Yeah. So do you have anything else that you also want to say about the Raiders versus Panthers? Like, both of us, we didn't necessarily get to watch, right? And we talked about like I guess the big elephant in the room was Antonio Pierce's comments, and like
Yeah, that and Luke Getsy.
That and Luke Getsy. So anything else that you can think of off the top of your head, like before we get into week 4?
Yeah, the only other thing would be that Marcus Epps got hurt late in this game, and it sounds like it might be a pretty bad knee injury, which actually, speaking of, he might be out for the year. We'll see where the official diagnosis gets us to later this week. But one thing that we didn't hear until after our last pod was that it was announced that Malcolm Kuntz is out for the season, unfortunately, which really upsets me. It sucks for him. He's on a contract year. But, for me, it's like we get that stud defensive tackle in Christian Wilkins, and obviously you have Crosby, right? But opposite Crosby, we had Kuntz playing amazingly, like in the second half of last season, really catching fire. And I was over here thinking, like, man, we might have something like extra special on the defensive line. And now we got to, kind of go back to square one opposite Crosby. But on the bright side, this kind of opens an avenue for Tyree Wilson to get a lot more snaps. Week 2, he was out with a knee injury. I think he was playing in this game against the Panthers, but I never heard his name really on the radio. So I don't know, man. I want to see more from Tyree Wilson. And then I'm curious what's going to happen at safety if Epps is out for a long time, if not the whole season. Should be Isaiah Polamalu, but we'll see. Yeah, and then other than that, just I'm curious to see what they do to get the offensive line to block better, especially for the run. I'm going to be watching that along with the play calling of Luke Getsy much, closer. And maybe I'll try to see going into this next game against the Browns if there are any major or even subtle decisions that were made in the sense of potentially those business decisions that Antonio Pierce was talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, I see a couple comments. We will get to it. We're wrapping up our thoughts here on the Raiders versus Panthers real quick. I just want to say, like, I can understand the you didn't have film on Andy Dalton, and what it would look like. And if you're a Raider fan, you got to be thinking, man, why did they choose to bench Bryce Young now?
Right.
Why couldn't they have just waited one week?
I mean, really, first overall pick, like, damn, like that's ballsy. But I understand it because new head coach and Dave Canales. So
yeah,
not Morales, Canales.
One thing that I'm having trouble wrapping my head around is, man, the Panthers were able to run the ball. Chuba Hubbard had 21 carries for 114 yards, the longest one being 14 yards. It's, it just kind of like, it's crazy to me because the Chargers wanted to run the ball, and the Raiders, for the most part, were able to contain the run. Who did the Raiders play last week?
Baltimore.
Baltimore. The Raiders did a good job against, the run, all things considered, against that juggernaut of a rushing attack.
Right.
And then over here, they're just getting gashed by Chuba Hubbard. Like, that to me kind of jumps out more than anything.
Yeah.
With Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby, That's just obviously things need to improve there, and that could be part of what Antonio Pierce is talking about on the whole business decisions.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
yeah, let's go ahead and pull this up. We can kind of do a little 2-for-1. So we were both wrong here. I just want to point out again, Mike was wrong again. Hasn't been right. Don't worry, Mike. Maybe this will be the week. The Raiders are going to be playing the Browns this week. Mike, how are you feeling about that game? Yeah. How are you feeling about the Raiders versus Browns? You think the Raiders are going to win this one?
You know what? I'm curious. Did the Browns play the Giants this week, or was that like a few weeks ago?
No, they played the Giants. And they
Did play the
lost.
Giants? Yeah, the Giants beat their ass, dude.
Yep.
I mean, you got a pissed off head coach.
21-15.
Okay. Yeah. You got a pissed off head coach in Antonio Pierce right now, who just got embarrassed by the Panthers. I want to say this will be at home. Yes, this will be at home. So this will be home game number 2 for the Raiders, back-to-back weeks at home. I mean, just coming off of an embarrassing game, I definitely see the, I see the get right game kind of presenting itself. But I don't know if they will actually be able to pull that off. I mean, after this game, I'm just completely lost, and the consistency just clearly isn't there. I think there is a little bit of excuse making that can be had of like, oh, the film wasn't there for Andy Dalton for the Raiders defense to prep for, but and I think with the Panthers, one thing with Bryce Young was like they couldn't sustain drives past like 6 plays, so there's not even film to have on them from the get go. So it's like now that Andy Dalton's in there, an actual pro quarterback, with or at least a veteran quarterback, able to extend drives, it's like, well, now they're doing what they want to do, whereas the past 2 weeks they couldn't. Anyways, let's see. I mean, the Browns, you got Myles Garrett, you got a good offensive line. I don't know what the hell they're doing with the run game though over there. I mean, no Nick Chubb obviously, but Jerome Ford, I didn't get to see how he played this week, but I know there was a lot of questions involving Deontay. What is his name? Foreman? Is it Deontay Foreman? Let me see. Let's see. So sorry.
I think it is Deontay Foreman because he was splitting with Jerome Ford.
Yeah. Okay, what the hell? Who cares? Yeah, I think that's his name, Deontay Foreman. So they have kind of a two-headed rush attack. You got Amari Cooper, who was having a slow start, but this week he went off. He had like 2 touchdowns. Obviously, Deshaun Watson. I don't know how good their defense is playing. I mean, they just lost. They're 1-2. They're also 1-2. They lost to the Giants. And then let's see, Browns. They beat the Jaguars week 2, and I think week 1 they got killed by the Cowboys. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm going to have you go first.
Yeah, I'm really struggling with this one, and it's really because I think the Browns had a really good defense last season, but this season they seem to have regressed in their defense. They got kind of bullied by the Cowboys, and they just got not scraped, but they lost to the Giants. It was a 1-score game, but it seemed like the Giants were like kind of in control for most of the game. Yeah, I don't know. Here's the thing though, is the Raiders right now, their pass defense was pretty bad against Andy Dalton. I don't know. Amari Cooper is a good wide receiver. Any Raider fan will tell you they probably loved Amari Cooper when he was a Raider. It's been a long time since then, but I don't know. I think Amari Cooper's pretty good, and he's finally heating up. It's so tough because he is one of those players that is either going to be quiet all game or is going to have a
Load.
great game.
That's how he
If
is.
he has a great game, like he had a great game against the Giants and they lost. The only problem is the Raiders are also inconsistent too.
Yeah.
Are we going to get the Raiders that we saw week 1 and 2 in terms, on defense? Or are we going to get the defense that we saw week 3? Hold on, my AirPod died. One second.
I'll say while you're kind of waiting right now, one player that I have not mentioned so far on this pod, I don't think, but I have noticed when I have been able to see or listen to the games, Jacorian Bennett has been playing really well at the number 2 corner spot opposite Jack Jones, which is a pleasant, I wouldn't call it surprise, but just, that's good. That doesn't lean me one way or the other in this matchup, but just something I had to say was Jacorian Bennett is doing a good job at the number 2 corner spot. And I hadn't mentioned that yet.
Can I pick a tie? No, I'm not going to pick a tie. But I guess we could. There's nothing against us because it could happen. But in terms of Raiders versus Browns, like it's tough. Like the Raiders are kind of coming off like a really disappointing loss, so I think they could be on the brink of like could they be losing? Could Antonio Pierce potentially, like with his comments, could he lose the locker room, or will this fire them up? It's really tough to gauge. The Browns haven't showed a lot of promise this year. Like this is like man, is Kevin Stefanski gonna get fired so far through 3 weeks? Like,
yeah,
just my vibes, because they gave all this money to Deshaun Watson and he's not returning on investment. Oh man, I almost feel like flipping a coin because I think this game will be close and could go either way, but if the Raiders defense shows up, I just don't see how the Browns could score points.
yeah.
If the Raiders defense plays up to the standard that they've established over the last couple games, and week 1 and 2 this year. So like last couple games last year and week 1 and 2 this year. Oh man. How severe is Max Crosby's ankle, Mike?
I mean, all I've heard is it's a high ankle sprain, but I mean, he played on it and he got it injured week 2 and he was able to play on it this week. But I think from what I heard on the radio, maybe his explosion wasn't completely there,
Mm-hmm.
Not the typical Max Crosby that you hope for.
Do I want to give Antonio Pierce and the Raiders the benefit of the doubt that they will turn it around this week? Because here's what I think. We just saw the Panthers, run the ball on the Raiders. Could we see the same thing from the Browns? Like, oh man, am I gonna do this? Am I gonna pick the Raiders to win? This is a coin toss. Where are you leaning, Mike?
I'm. Did I go first on the Niners or not? I don't want to sway you, dude. I don't want to sway you.
Okay. Don't sway me. Hold on. I don't even have it pulled up. I'm over here sitting contemplating on who I'm gonna pick. I'm just seeing all this red and I don't like it. I like to be right. What is going? I like Antonio Pierce. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Since it's close, I think the Raiders are the more talented team. I honestly do. I think they're the more talented team. The only thing, though, is I don't feel good about the Raiders' offensive line versus the Browns' defensive line, and that could be the difference in the game, and that could be why I'm wrong this upcoming week when we talk about it. But yeah, I will go with the Raiders right now. If I switch my pick, I will let you know before the game. So everybody, as of right now, September 23rd, 2024, at 2 a.m., lock it in. The Raiders.
The Raiders. I'm going with the Browns. I think the Raiders are going to lose in the line of scrimmage, in the trenches. I think the Browns are going to kick their ass. Just like not as bad as the Panthers game, but in the trenches, just as bad as the Panthers game. That's what I'm feeling right now.
I got good news for you Raider fans. Mike just
on the
Mike
bright
just
side.
won the Raiders. Mike just won the Raiders the game.
Yeah. No, I'm not feeling good about the offensive and even the defensive line right now with Max Crosby's ankle. And I wouldn't blame you at all if Sunday or even Friday it's announced like, yeah, Max Crosby's not going to be able to go this week if you change your pick. I wouldn't like that would make too much sense. If Crosby's out, that's an easy Browns pick. But right now I'm just already I think the Browns in their own sense will have a get right game because in the trenches they will be able to beat us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, I if anything changes, I will let you know. But yeah, that's sort of my breakdown on how I think things will shape out. It's like, it's just tough. Let's get to some comments before we get out of here. We're kind of done with the show, right, Mike?
Yeah.
But let's take these comments because we appreciate you guys coming in and adding to the show. Like we seriously do. It really makes this a lot of fun. We just like to talk ball. Will asks, oh no, hold on, I'll get to this. But there were some earlier that I didn't get to finish off
Niners
that
ones?
the Niners ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said I was going to, and then I switched over to the Raiders. And
didn't.
I
noticed it. I was gonna say something, but you just started the Raiders. I was like, ah.
Yeah. Okay. M. Patel, about an hour and a half ago, said, "Don't care about the Pats. It's all about the Cardinals and the Sea Chickens." Yeah. The thing about the Patriots, I was like kind of feeling like this past week I didn't care about the Rams. Like, let's look ahead. Well, I wasn't looking ahead, but I would say with this Niner team right now, nothing is a given. Although this week certainly feels like it. Niner Trump said, "A team we rarely see. I think our physicality will overwhelm them." Talking about the Niners and the Patriots. Yeah, no, I think the Niners. I mean, will they out physical the Patriots? Probably. And yeah, the Patriots are coming off a blowout loss, and Niner Trump, is just so positive, and for good reason. This team has showed, why we should be positive and not panic. They've gotten off to slow starts before, but playing at home will be a great time to regroup and rebound, for the Niners, get back to 500 and hit the reset. Okay, let's get to the more recent comments, not the ones that I skipped over and I forgot. Let's see. M. Patel said that, he's so pissed at the Niners effort. Niners have one rival and it's the Lambs. Yeah, Mike, isn't there a movie that's it's called Silence of the Lambs? Is that starring who's in that movie?
Jodie Foster, Anthony Hopkins, I believe is his name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know why I'm like, was Christian Bale in that movie?
No, he was not. I'm not sure which movie you're thinking, unless you're thinking of American Psycho or something.
You know what? Okay, the reason why I think there's a South Park episode that I think has Silence of the Lambs references and also American Psycho references in the same episode. So I was over here thinking about Patrick Bateman, with the whole,
Right.
with Will's picture. Speaking of Will, he said, I saw Zamir White super high on fantasy drafts. Yeah. Tell me about it. Do you think it reflects his talent, or that, more people was thinking that he would dominate usage / touches in the backfield? I am one of those people who drafted Zamir White high. I drafted him higher than his, where he was going in those fantasy drafts. And the reason why is because last season, when Antonio Pierce took over, it seemed like this Raiders team was going to be a team that was going to out physical the opponent and run the ball down the other team's throat and play defense. That's literally like, that's the vibe that I got, but I should have known the Raiders have too much talent, I think, between Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, and Brock Bowers, that they would be passing the ball a little bit more. But I was just kind of hoping it would like be complementary and feed off the run game. But yeah, I was over here thinking, I was getting like maybe Josh Jacobs level production fantasy wise, something like that. And, that was my thinking, but we're getting nowhere near that. And they're just not able to get it going. I think it's the offensive line.
Yeah, I don't think it reflected his talent. It was more of just, all right, the final 4 weeks last year when Josh Jacobs was out with an injury, he was able to step in and take on that 3-down role and succeed. He got like a touchdown, I think, almost every game, and he was averaging maybe like 60 plus yards. So for fantasy, it was really good. And it was like, well, now his only opposition is Alexander Mattison, and everybody gave Alexander Mattison this bad rap of like, he fucking sucks, when it's like, well, he doesn't really suck, and I think the assumption was just, if Antonio Pierce gets it his way, Zamir White will be the 3-down back for the Raiders, and that just wasn't true. So,
Well, I think maybe Antonio Pierce, what it seems like to me, Antonio Pierce and Luke Getsy have different ideas for that, but also game script kind of dictates, because week 1, the Chargers run defense was pretty good. Week 2, they were down against the Ravens for most of the game and had to come back. And week 3, they tried to run the ball and then the game got away from them. So it's still very early. They can still, I was over here all day like, man, when can I trust Zamir White? And it's like, well, the Raiders aren't going to just get blown out every single week. I think it should, in theory, level out. It was just sort of a trap game to, it was a trap game with the Carolina Panthers, and they were riding so high after beating the Ravens, and I can see where it's just easy. Like, man, we're gonna kick the shit out of the Panthers. They're nowhere near as good as the Ravens, but Andy Dalton came in, did Andy Dalton versus the Raiders things, and the rest was history. So, Mike, I expect you to be sending those trade offers for Zamir White very swiftly. Niner Trump says, we will be fine, faithful fans. This team is banged up, but still really good. It's good to face this adversity early on in the season. I return home and close out September with a win. A return home. A return to home and close out September with a win would be big. Sorry, it's 2 a.m. just as M. Patel says. It's 2 a.m. West Coast time, so it's way past our bedtimes right now. But we're still going strong. Maybe crawling across the finish line here. But yeah, in terms of Niner Trump's comment, this team has faced a lot of adversity early on before, and too early to write them off. Am I skeptical of a Super Bowl hangover? Very much so. or at least I am a little bit skeptical because so far both their losses are on the road, like just, but like I said, it's week 3. There's still a lot of football to be played. And then M. Patel said the Browns quarterback is not good. I project that he will lose this week, but maybe his season will finish with a happy ending. Lots
he's
of
going to be in
Owen.
Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah.
He can do whatever the hell he wants.
Keep him inside his hotel room alone.
Yeah.
Lots of 0-2 teams won. The Ravens won. That's the first one that I can think of off the top of my head. Obviously, the Panthers won.
The Rams.
Thanks. Forgot about that. I thought they were. I don't know why. I thought they were 1-1.
Yeah, I would have figured that too.
Yeah. CG Ruthless, thank you for tuning back in. Says, sup, guys. CG, thank you again for tuning back in. Sup back at you. Will says, the way they were playing, I don't think that they have I don't think we have the luxury of completely overlooking teams anymore. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Not saying we'll lose, but I don't see why this team should be dominant favorites at their current state. Well, I will say dominant favorites right now for this upcoming week because the Patriots are they're just ass. Like, all right, at least the Rams, when they are healthy, they resemble, they're a good team. The Patriots, when they're healthy, are like, yeah, maybe they'll get the first overall pick. I couldn't tell if you were frozen right there, Mike, or if you were just.
I'm not even lying, dude. I was just rereading his question or comment in Patrick Bateman's voice. I was just like imagining Patrick Bateman asking all of these questions, and it's like cracking me up on the inside. Like with the way that he monologues at the beginning of the movie, just like the way we're playing, I don't think we have the luxury of completely looking over teams anymore. Not saying we'll lose, but I don't see why this team should be dominant favorites at their current state.
Will says the inner monologue. Hey, that's pretty good. I don't know. Rated out of 10. What would you give, chat? What would you give Mike out of 10 for his inner monologue?
Patrick Bateman.
The inner monologue. LMFAO. I'm Patrick Bateman. 10 out of 10. Yeah. That's how we're finishing off the show. Will, M. Patel, CG Ruthless, Tony, Amin, and I want to say, Niner Trump, Demokes. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. It was great to, I would say a good portion of you guys, like Will and Niner Trump. Yeah. I would say new viewers. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Comment, like. We go live every single week during the season.
We love the comments. We love getting to chat with all you guys.
Yeah, Will says, "Hell yeah, boys!" Yeah, no, we're gonna be here all season. So tune in every single week. Tune in when you can. We're gonna be, since you're new to the channel, we split the videos in half. And upload 2 different videos. So if you're not able to catch it live, you can always come back to the live stream. Just click under the live tab on our channel and then watch all the live streams. Or, if you want to wait for the Niner, weekly recap / weekly preview, or the Raider weekly recap, weekly preview, you can also do that too.
No, you can always comment on there and we'll read the comments and try to get to them too.
Yeah. Will said, sub to y'all. I'll try to pop into the lives for sure. So it's good to know this will be the last time we ever hear from you. No, I'm just kidding. No, we appreciate it. We look very much forward to taking your comments. Yeah, man. Consider smashing that like button. It helps us with the algorithm. And it was so funny, Mike.
I just completely random. I just thought of the fucking love bullets.
Oh my god! All right. Story time.
Yeah.
This, I was in college, and I was trying to get an Xbox Series X off of Best Buy. No, yeah, it was off of Best Buy, and they were supposed to have like a drop at really early in the morning, right? Like there was these reports that like the Xbox Series X and the PS5s were going to be restocked at like 4 a.m., right? And I woke up that early because that was during like peak COVID. And
yes, they were just selling out like that.
yeah, it was like impossible to get
PS5.
because the chip shortage and the scalpers and everything. And so, Mike and I were both trying to get an Xbox Series X. And, so I was like telling Mike, yeah, no, I'll let you know like when they go live and, we'll try and do it. And so like, I think I had like the day off and I did, I made sure I did all my assignments and I was going to wake up early that day. I woke up at like 4 a.m. or something, something stupid like that for this stupid ass Xbox, right? Like it kind of sounds really dumb in retrospect. Like I woke up at 4 a.m. to spend $500 on video games, sounds very stupid in retrospect. And then so I found this YouTube channel that was like, talking about like the whole Xbox like love bullets thing. Or not love bullets thing. Sorry, I'm so tired. It's 2 a.m. Talking about like that Xbox drops and everything and how it was supposed to drop at Best Buy. And so like we were just waiting. And this guy had like, hundreds of viewers at, like during that time and everything. And so like his streams are very like upbeat and everything. And I just want you to imagine like me super tired, like more tired than I am right now. Like I just woke up. I'm in my hoodie. It's like kind of cold. It's like during the winter. And oh man. You know what? It might have been during winter break, so I didn't have homework. But I started watching this thing. I'm like, all right, if this guy's live, he can say when the drop actually goes live. So that way I don't have to refresh every single second because I was like refreshing over and over. I want to say I was on that live stream for like maybe 8 hours. And this,
God,
like anywhere between 5 to 8 hours.
I remember. Yes, it took forever. Yeah.
Yeah. I was on that live stream and I was like, it was kind of torture, but this was like one of the only channels that I think was doing it, and
Yeah.
I was like, I'm so far in, like, I'm so invested into getting this Xbox. Like, I'm not going to walk away, and walking away from this live stream probably means me, like saying sayonara to my chances, of getting one because it was so hard to get. And so like every so often he would turn on this music and like, no disrespect to this YouTuber. It was just a little too much for me that particular morning. But he's like, all right, guys, you know what it is? Party fingers. I'm about to send you the love bullets. And then like, it was just like doing this. He's like, I'm sending love to all you guys. Like, just doing like finger guns. And It was like, I'm not going to lie. It was so cringe. And like, this is no disrespect to that guy. I know it sounds very like, judgmental and everything. And maybe it is, but
You're just sitting there like, I just want an Xbox.
I just want an Xbox. Please just help me out. And then Best Buy didn't even go live with the drop. I sat in that live stream for like anywhere between 5 and 8 hours that day to try and get an Xbox. And then Walmart was the one that went live. So I ordered it from fucking Walmart. And then like after that, I came to the realization. I was like, how many love bullets, like, finger gun parties did I sit through? Like, oh man, it was way too much for me that morning. Like, I just want you to imagine, like, M. Patel says, damn, you guys are still alive. Like, we're 2 hours and 55 minutes in. Dude, I was on that live stream, like watching it for like 5 to 8 hours just so I could get an Xbox. I dedicated that day. I said, by the end of the day, I am going to get an Xbox. The biggest slap in the face, I told Mike, I said, hey, they're live. Mike orders one before I even did. And Mike's at work, like just living his life.
Yeah.
And, I forget, did Paulina help you order it or you were able to do it or,
Yeah, she was on the verge of buying one and I like my order went through. So I told her like, okay, stop, like, don't order it. Like I got mine, we're good. And yeah, no, she was definitely there to help too. But because I had told her like, hey, like I'm at work, so if I need you to do something, like if my internet's bad or whatever, like help please. But it worked out. Yeah.
Oh, there was a comment I think I wanted to get to. Will said, not to get too far ahead, but how do you think that we'll do against the Cowboys this year? I'm always confident against them, but man, our run defense is awful right now. There's still a couple weeks, like 5 weeks, I think, before the Cowboys game. Cowboys game is in week 8, so we still have this week against the Patriots, Cardinals, Seahawks, Chiefs. Cardinals, Seahawks, Chiefs is what I'm worried about.
That's rough.
That's rough.
It's looking rough.
Because the Cardinals are always a hard matchup for the 49ers because of Kyler Murray. Seahawks, I think I'm less worried about the Seahawks than I am about the Cardinals.
3-0.
Chiefs is going to be hard. And then the thing about the Cowboys, they're not playing that great either. So, like, no offense to Tony if you're still watching. Like, I think both the Niners and the Cowboys are underperforming. So there's still time for both teams to correct it. But
I'll just say, if the Niners get relatively fully healthy going into that game or the weeks ahead of that game, they'll beat the Cowboys. Like, I'd be very confident that the Niners at 95% full strength, if they can have Debo, McCaffrey, and whoever else healthy besides maybe a Greenlaw, they'll beat the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm. M. Patel's still very angry about the Rams game. So M. Patel says, love you guys. We appreciate that. I've seen 5 Lombardis, but this ownership group just wants to be relevant. You were lucky enough to see the 5 Lombardis. I know now, like, just from hearing, it's vastly different the way that the organization is run. And obviously it's a different era and everything, but from top to bottom, it's not the same. And I feel like the ownership is kind of complacent with where they're at. M. Patel, go Niners. They better be 2-0 versus the Cards and Sea Chickens. We'll see. That, like Will says, that's gonna be tough. Lecky says, Getsy play calling is horrendous. Last 2 games we struggled to score. Explains why he got fired in Chicago.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I think signs currently are pointing towards him kind of being the fall guy this year, if it isn't Antonio Pierce in the entirety of this current regime or something. But I don't see Telesco going anywhere. But, if they were to let somebody go at the end of the season or even before the end of the season, I think Getsy currently is the leading candidate, maybe along with like a Minshew. But, yeah, man, the play calling is not there right now, and I think the offensive line is a big part of that, and they just need to get it right. So,
yeah. Will says, damn, bruh, all I've seen is Super Bowl heartbreak. Same. I have only... Mike, do you know how hard it is? I've seen my team go to the Super Bowl 3 times, and I've seen them lose 3 times.
That's rough. I wasn't cognitive when the Raiders went to the Super Bowl in 2002. I was still probably shitting my pants. Uh, so I don't remember that feeling at all because I didn't have any feeling towards it. But I know for a fact my dad had feelings about it, you know. But
Yeah,
I don't
my
know how I'd react, dude. I don't know how I could react to the Raiders losing a Super Bowl. But you guys going through it 3 times, I definitely feel for you. That is rough.
yeah, my experience, I was also shitting my pants, and I had very strong feelings towards it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lucky says Getsy is putting AP on the in the hot seat. If AP is going to make a business decisions, he has to take over the play calling. Can't get any worse than that. The only thing is, I don't know if Antonio Pierce can call plays. You know, he's not
See-
an offensive minded coach.
Yeah, my issue, I don't know if I got to say this earlier, but now's a good time. My issue with like maybe fans wanting Getsy to be fired like tomorrow, I genuinely don't know if they have somebody on the coaching staff right now that can call plays that who isn't named Getsy. You know what? That's not true, actually. I think Joe Philbin. Joe Philbin might be able to call plays. He's like the senior offensive advisor right now. I don't know if Marvin Lewis is a offensive or defensive minded coach. I want to say defensive. I could be wrong. But like all the assistant coaches on offense, I don't think one of them has play calling experience. And honestly, with all this talk of like fall guys and stuff and the offensive line, struggling, uh, James Craig, is that his name? The ex-Niners assistant offensive line coach who's now our offensive line coach. That's a guy who needs to, probably do a better job. But he's definitely not going to be calling plays, that's for sure. I don't know if it's James Craig, Joe Craig. I swear Craig is in the name. Raiders offensive line coach.
Is it Craig James?
That would check out. I said it backwards.
No, hold on. Who's Craig James? No, he was a running back.
Raiders offensive line coach. James Craig.
Well, that's annoying. I looked it up and they gave me Craig James.
Yeah, James Craig is the offensive line coach if it'll get in there. Come on.
My
phone.
God. He's
Damn.
so white.
There
there we go.
Yeah. So
Huh.
that's the offensive line coach. He's probably should be a little bit to blame too, because he's been a assistant offensive line coach and now he's the main guy, But yeah, to the point, I'd say Joe Philbin's probably the only other option to call plays for the Raiders. So.
Mm-hmm. It's 2:30 a.m. Mike and I are gonna call it a show. Like we said, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. We hope to see you guys next week. Feel free to leave comments on our videos. We like to respond to comments. And yeah, Mike, any last words before we get out of here?
I don't even know what I want for this season anymore. It's like been back and forth. After week 1, it's like, let's tank. Let's get the number 1 pick. And then week 2, it's like, we could do anything. We could beat anybody. And then after this past week, it's like, I just can't help but continue to think they just need the right quarterback and the right offensive coordinator. And they should do whatever they have to do to get that. So.
Mm-hmm. Lucky, I hope you also have a blessed one. Thank you. This was one of our best shows, and tune in because next week it just gets better when Mike is wrong on it. Oh no, that would be horrible if you're still winless. That would be horrible.
Then the Niners would lose to the Patriots.
Yep, that would be horrible.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, Raiders need new business cards specifically with watermarks of our. Oh, is that a
American Psycho.
Oh
Dude, that's
my
my
God.
favorite scene.
I
That
forgot
one
about that. I
and
forgot about that.
that one and the laundromat scene. Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, Mike
Business
and I
cards,
watched that
yeah.
one recently. Well, Mike's seen it before, but we watched the unrated version, right? Or something like that.
I
The
think so. Or director's,
uncut
I
or
don't know
something
what.
like that.
Yeah, I think uncut. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
cranberry juice.
yeah.
All right.
That
Everybody have a great night. We'll catch you guys next week.